What if Obi-Wan Kenobi arrived in Warhammer 40K? On Tatooine in his small cave, Obi-Wan Kenobi feels a new scream in the Force. It is not from his own galaxy, but from a place far away, filled with fire and endless war. He knows he should stay hidden and watch over Luke, but he also knows he cannot ignore such pain. In deep meditation, he reaches for the old Jedi paths between worlds, thin places where time and space bend. The veil opens like a wound, cold and wrong, and before he can turn back, the breach tears wide and pulls him through. The sky above Heliandria Prime splits open. It happens over Hive Eidolon, a city of black towers and smoke-stained walls that climb so high they stab the clouds. Billions live inside its stacked hives, its rusted hab blocks, its endless factory decks that never sleep. On the outer wall, a young conscript of the Imperial Guard looks up from his post and drops his laser gun in shock. Light pours from a wound in the clouds. It is not the pale light of the system's sun. It is a hard white line that widens, bleeding gold and blue. "Vox Control, this is Wall Squad 7, the conscript shouts into his helmet mic. "The sky is opening. I repeat, the sky is opening." His voice breaks into a dozen Vox channels at once, echoing through command bunkers and armored columns. Officers curse and demand clearer reports. Some shout that it must be a new chaos trick. Others fear it is a sign of the Emperor's wrath. No one knows for sure. Then something falls through. Obi-Wan Kenobi tumbles out of the tear and into a world that is wrong in every way. The air is thick with smoke and metal dust. The sky is full of war machines, gunships shaped like bricks with wings, fighters with skulls painted on their noses, burning wrecks that trail fire as they fall. Below him is a wall the size of a mountain, and beyond it a sea of ruined buildings and moving dots. Blaster fire snaps past him, but these shots are not blaster bolts. They are red and white lines from crude rifles, wild and poorly aimed, but still deadly. He reaches out with the Force, slows his fall, and twists in the air. He lands in the middle of a battlefield. The ground shakes under his boots. To one side, lines of human soldiers in dust-brown uniforms fire in volleys. Their guns spit sharp beams of light. They yell their litanies, short and harsh prayers to a god emperor whose name Obi-Wan does not yet know. Their armor is thin, their helmets simple. Many are already dead, lying in the mud with eyes open to the smoke-filled sky. To the other side, something worse pushes forward. Men and things that were once men charge, screaming, painted in blood and symbols that hurt the eyes. Their skin is cracked and blistered. Some have extra limbs or bone spikes growing from their backs. They wave chain axes and rusty blades and cheap copies of the soldiers' guns. Behind them, a towering figure in spiked armor leads the charge, his voice loud even over the thunder of guns. The warp stinks around that one. Obi-Wan feels it at once. He does not know this world. He does not know its factions or its wars. But he knows a battlefield. He knows rage twisted by a power like the dark side, but raw and filthy in its own way. He knows innocent people are about to die. A stray blast from a heavy cannon screams toward a cluster of guardsmen. Obi-Wan moves without thinking. His hand snaps out. The Force flows through him like a river through a narrow gorge. The shot bends, its path twisting just enough to miss the soldiers and slam into empty rubble instead. The nearest squad stares. He draws his lightsaber. The blue blade snaps to life with its clear, smooth hum. In this world of harsh noise and crude engines, its sound is almost gentle. A hail of shots comes his way now. The charging cultists think he is a threat, but they do not understand what he is. Obi-Wan steps forward, calm and focused. The world slows. Bolts of searing light and clumsy bullets become lines he can see and choose. He cuts them from the air. To the guardsman, it looks like a miracle. The stranger in brown robes moves with careful grace. His glowing blade is a straight bar of light that flicks left and right, up and down. Every move is exact. Every stroke sends a shot off course or slices it into harmless sparks. Then he is among the cultists. He uses the flat of the blade when he can. Elbows and knees when there is space. He trips one attacker, throws another aside with a small push of the force. He is not here to kill for glory. He is here to stop the killing. Still, many fall. It is war, and war does not let you choose every outcome. One chain axe roars down toward his head. Obi-Wan steps inside the ark and taps the wielder's wrist with a burst of power. Bones crack. The weapon falls. A kick sends its owner spinning into the dirt. The towering leader raises a hand. Dark energy crackles there like purple fire. Obi-Wan feels the wrongness of it, the way it tugs at the same space his own power touches. It is not the dark side as he knows it, but it is close enough to set every warning in his mind ringing. He throws his free hand out and meets that energy with his own. The two powers crash into each other in the air. For a heartbeat, there is pure white light. The ground under their feet explodes outward in a ring. Cultists and guardsmen alike are thrown off their feet. Ears ring. Dust rises in a choking wall. Obi-Wan staggers. His lungs burn. This world resists his touch. Its psychic field is not the clean flow of his home galaxy. It is thicker, like trying to breathe underwater. But the enemy sorcerer fares worse. The spiked giant falls to one knee, armor scraped and flaring with leaking warp light. He clutches his head as if something inside is screaming. The dark grip he had on the battlefield breaks. Many of his followers freeze, stunned, their frenzy cut in half. The Imperial line does not waste the moment. Forward, for the Emperor. And the officer roars. The guardsmen charge. Their crude rifles spit more light. Bayonets stab. Grenades blast open pockets of mutants. The cult line buckles. The giant sorcerer snarls and throws up a shield of twisted energy. Obi-Wan starts toward him, but his vision swims. A thin line of blood runs from his nose. He had to match a power tied to this whole heavy sea of thought and fear. His body is used to cleaner currents. He knows his limit. He plants his saber in the ground for balance and braces himself. Codex note: unidentified psychers can bend the warp in strange ways, but the warp always takes its due in pain, blood, or sanity. "Who in the throne's name are you?" a voice gasps. The speaker is a young woman in an officer's coat, its trim scorched and torn. Her face is smeared with ash. A broken rebreather hangs at her throat. Her last pistol shakes in her grip as she looks at Obi-Wan, awe and fear mixing in her eyes. "I am Obi-Wan Kenobi," he says, breathing hard but steady. Was a Jedi Knight." "Never heard of that regiment," she mutters. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand and steadies herself. "I'm Captain Lyra Voss, Heliandria 22nd. You just saved my line. The Emperor's grace on you, whoever you are." He senses her grief behind the steady words. She has already lost many under her command today. But she stands. That alone tells him much about this world. "Your men fought bravely," he says. "Bravery doesn't stop demons," another voice says, cold and sharp. Obi-Wan turns. A new group is approaching from the rear of the lines. At their center walks a tall man in a long black coat, marked with a stylized letter I crossed by a skull. His eyes are hard and pale. A scar runs from his brow to his cheek. Around him, move stormtroopers in heavier armor, their helmets smooth and blank, their weapons larger and cleaner than the standard guard rifles. On his chest hangs a metal seal on a chain. Its wax is fresh, its script tight and ancient. Every guardsman who sees him draws back a little and bows or kneels, even in the chaos of the battlefield. "Inquisitor," Lyra whispers under her breath. So this is a figure of authority, not just a leader, a guardian of some strict order. Obi-Wan can feel the sharpness of the man's mind. It is a blade honed against lies and heresy. "Inquisitor Varro Kieran of the Ordo Hereticus," the man says. "I have been watching this front for signs of witchcraft and demon worship. Imagine my interest when an unknown psyker falls from a warp tear and begins to work miracles in front of my guard." His gaze locks with Obi-Wan's. Obi-Wan meets it calmly. He is used to mistrust. The Clone Wars taught him how quickly fear turns into judgment. "I worship no demon," Obi-Wan says. "I serve the Force, and I saved your soldiers because they needed help." "The Force," Varro repeats, as if tasting the word. "We will speak more of this." Lyra steps between them, as if her body could shield Obi-Wan from the Inquisitor's glare. "With respect, my lord," she says, voice tight. "He saved us. The cultists were about to break the line. Their sorcerer. The sorcerer is not yet dead," Varro cuts in. "You can still hear him." The ground trembles. A roar rolls over the battlefield. From the dust cloud, the spiked giant rises once more. The warp light around him has turned a deep, venomous red. Horns now push through his helmet. His right arm has swollen, metal and flesh melting together into a clawed gauntlet that drips liquid fire. The air around him screams. The cultists who still stand answer with new frenzy. They chant in a harsh, ugly tongue. The symbols on their skin glow faintly. Even some of the guardsmen flinch, feeling a pressure in their skulls that is not sound. "What is he?" Obi-Wan asks. "A chaos sorcerer," Varro says. "A pawn of the warp, a hole in reality that walks and talks." Chaos, warp, new words for old dangers. Obi-Wan feels the push of that power against his own senses. It wants to spread, to eat, to twist. It is like the dark side, but without purpose, just hunger. "We can hold a little longer," Lyra says. "But if he gets close to the wall, if he reaches the hab blocks..." There are families in those blocks, children, workers, people just trying to live. Obi-Wan sees them in his mind even though he has not met them. This is not his war, this is not his galaxy, but suffering is the same everywhere. "What do you need from me?" he asks. Varro studies him, weighing risk and gain. "To fight on this world," the Inquisitor says slowly, "you must accept certain facts. First, the warp is poison. Any who touch it are a danger. Second, I am charged by the Emperor of Mankind to seek out and judge all such dangers. That now includes you, Jedi Knight. Third, for the moment, your existence is tactically useful." Obi-Wan gives a small, tired smile. "Where I come from, that would be called a compliment," he says. "This is not where you come from," Varro replies. "You will go with Captain Voss. You will help hold this sector. You will not use your powers in any way I forbid. When the battle allows, we will take you for proper examination and sanction. Do you understand?" Obi-Wan thinks of Luke, of Owen and Beru, of the sand and the twin suns, of the path he stepped off when he opened that tear. He does not know if he can ever go back, but people are dying here and now. "I understand," he says. "I will protect the innocent. That is my code." Varro's eyes narrow. "I care about the Imperium," the Inquisitor says. "Not the innocent, but for today, their survival aligns. Captain Voss, get your men ready. The enemy advances." He turns away, already barking orders into his vox. The next assault comes like a storm. Cultist waves rush forward, pushing makeshift carts with crude rocket launchers. Behind them, lumber-twisted walkers, metal frames with long legs, topped by cannons and howling faces. In the sky, black-winged craft circle, ready to strafe any gap in the guard's line. Lyra runs the trench, shouting orders. Second platoon, focus fire on the walker's joints. Third, cover that psyker, that is, cover the Jedi. I want every heavy stubber burning out its barrel before those things hit the wall. Obi-Wan stands at the center of the line. He can feel the fear of the soldiers around him. Many are little more than boys and girls. This is their first real battle. For some, it will be their last. He reaches out gently with the Force, not changing their minds, but offering a touch of calm. "Breathe," he says softly. "Trust your training. Stand together." They do not hear him over the noise, but some small part of them feels it. Their hands shake a bit less. Their aim steadies. The walkers fire. Shells scream in. Obi-Wan lifts both hands. The first shell explodes in midair, crushed by invisible pressure. The next two twist off course, slamming into empty fields. The fourth he cannot divert in time. It hits the wall far to the left, tearing a chunk of stonecrete free and sending bodies flying. He feels each loss like a sting. Power surges through him and out again. This world's warped psychic sea drags at his mind, trying to pull it down into cold, dark depths. He locks his focus around a simple thought. Protect them. He cannot stop every shot. He can make enough of a difference to matter. "Advance," Lyra roars. "Push them back." The guardsmen surge forward in short, careful steps, firing, ducking, reloading. A few shout, "For the Emperor." A few shout nothing at all, their faces set in grim lines. The cultists crash into them. Obi-Wan moves to where the line threatens to break. His saber is a blue arc that draws a clear edge where chaos cannot pass. He parries a chainsword, shoves its wielder back, sidesteps a mutant's lunge, and sends the creature spinning with a sweep of the blade. He feels the dark sorcerer watching him. "Captain," Varro's voice crackles in Lyra's earbead. "Tell your new ally that this is only a holding action. Enemy reinforcements are inbound from orbit. Sensors show a warband fleet exiting the warp. Designation: the Broken Claw. World Eaters Splinter Group. Predict planet-wide assault if not checked." Lyra glances toward Obi-Wan, who stands amid the chaos like the eye of a storm. "How in the throne's name do I tell him anything?" she snaps back. "He's a walking legend, not on our Vox." "Use your legs," Varro says dryly, "and your tongue." She grits her teeth and runs. Mud and blood splash under her boots. Bullets snap past her. A cultist leaps at her with a knife and dives with a lasbolt through his chest before he can land. She dives under a swinging chain axe, rolls, and pops up beside Obi-Wan. He is breathing hard now. Sweat runs down his face. His robe is torn at the sleeve and singed in places. He looks human, not some untouchable spirit. "Obi-Wan," she shouts over the roar. "The Inquisitor says this is just the start. There's a fleet in orbit. More of these things. They mean to take the whole planet." Obi-Wan blocks a blow, kicks the attacker away, and glances at her. "How many people live here?" he asks. "In Eidolon. Billions," she says. "On Heliandria Prime. 10 times that." He feels that number like a weight on his chest. Billions. "In my galaxy," he says between strikes, "I fought in a war that lasted many years. Worlds burned, orders fell. When the fighting was done, the galaxy was worse than before. I will not stand by and watch that happen here if I can stop it." Lyra laughs once, harsh. Then you came to the right place, she says. This is the Imperium. War never ends here. Another wave crashes against them. She fires her pistol point blank into a cultist's face. What do you need? She asks. Time, he says, and information. I can give one of those, she replies. Follow me if you can. She turns and runs toward a stairwell that leads down into the wall. Obi-Wan takes one look at the line. The soldiers can hold a few moments without him. The sorcerer is still gathering his strength, warped energy building around him, but not yet unleashed. He deactivates his saber, clips it to his belt, and follows Lyra into the dark of the fortress interior. The command bunker under the wall is a cramped cavern of metal and stone. Cogitator banks line the walls, their green screens filled with numbers and crude maps. Uniformed officers bend over tables lit by weak lamps. Vox operators shout into headsets, trying to make sense of a dozen fronts at once. The air tastes of stale, Resic oil and fear. At the center stands a raised platform with a holosphere floating above it. Tiny points of light show the hive, the continent, the planet. Red marks burn where enemy forces are confirmed. More red flickers at the edge of the sphere as new contacts appear in orbit. A man in a fine but dented carapace breastplate stands there, hands gripping the rail. His hair is iron grey. His face has the calm of practiced command, but his eyes are tired. Lord Governor Martius Hale, Lyra says, snapping a salute. Reporting from the western wall. Hale turns. His gaze lands on Obi-Wan, taking in robe, beard, and strange weapon. And this is, he asks. The one who kept us from being overrun, Lyra says. He calls himself a Jedi Knight. He fell from the sky. Hale's mouth tightens, but before he can reply, another voice speaks from the shadows. You are the anomaly I detected when the warp tear opened, Inquisitor Varro says, stepping forward. He must have taken another entrance into the bunker. He moves like someone who knows every hidden path. 2 stormtroopers flank him. Their presence makes every officer in the room stand a little straighter. He is also the reason you still have a western wall, Lyra says. With respect, my lord. Both can be true, Varro replies. He turns to Obi-Wan. This is Lord Governor Hale, steward of Heliandria Prime in the Emperor's name. For now, he controls this planet's fate. Such as it is. Hale nods once. If you saved my soldiers, you have my thanks, he says. Our guard regiments are not expendable, no matter what some in high command say. But I must also know what you are and what danger you bring. Obi-Wan rests his hands on the rail and looks up at the holosphere. Red icons bloom in orbit. A tight cluster of void ships forming a new pattern. A fleet. He recognizes the shape of ships, even if these designs are new. They are ugly, cruel things with too many spikes and too much exposed structure. Their paths curve downward, toward the planet. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi, he says. I am not from this galaxy. I came through a wound in space to stop a great pain I felt in the Force. That pain is here. It is in those ships. It is in the one you call a sorcerer. Varro's brow twitches at the word wound. His mind is already spinning, filing that detail away. The Force, Hale repeats slowly. Some kind of warp gift. Yes, Varro says before Obi-Wan can answer. He is an unsanctioned psyker of unknown origin and unknown loyalty, who arrives at the exact moment a Chaos fleet exits the warp above my world. Forgive me, Lord Governor, if I do not take his story at face value. Obi-Wan meets his suspicion with patience. In my order, he says, we do not use our gifts for personal gain. We serve peace and justice. We protect the innocent. Hale gives a tired, humorless smile. Peace and justice, he says. You speak like a man from another age. This is the 41st millennium, Master Kenobi. There is only war. Yes, Varro says, and in war, we do not have the luxury of trusting strangers who bend reality with a thought. Obi-Wan looks between them. Two men, both hardened by endless conflict, both clinging to duty in their own way. If I wanted your world destroyed, he says, I would not be down there bleeding with your soldiers. I felt this place's pain from very far away. I chose to come to it. I chose to help. Or you were sent, Varro counters. Chaos is cunning. A false savior is a powerful weapon. Lyra finally snaps. With respect, Inquisitor, she says, voice sharp. If he were a weapon of chaos, wouldn't the sorcerer outside be dead already? Wouldn't our men be turning on each other by now? Instead, he's holding the line and keeping that monster from smashing our heads in. Silence falls for a moment. The holosphere pings. More red icons appear. Obi-Wan watches and listens. He feels the tension in the room. He knows how fragile trust can be in war. He also knows there isn't time to argue forever. What are our options? He asks. Hale sighs. We have 3 substantial guard regiments on the surface, plus local PDF forces, he says. A handful of old defense lasers. No void fleet worth the name. We were not expecting a major warband. Not now. Not like this. High Command is busy elsewhere, Varro says. They will send help if they can break free from their current campaigns. That may be days, or weeks, or never. The Broken Claw will not wait, Hale says. They will bomb our hives. They will drop more of their monsters. They will drive their followers into our streets. We will drown in blood. Obi-Wan looks at the fleet again. He thinks of the Republic, of worlds held at the mercy of separatist dreadnoughts. He remembers how small he felt, trying to keep whole sectors safe with too few ships and too few Jedi. He will not repeat the same mistakes. You have soldiers, he says. You have defenses. You have courage. What you lack is time and a way to strike at the source. What are you proposing? Varro asks, wary. In my galaxy, we often fought fleets by striking at their command structure, Obi-Wan says. If we could disrupt their leadership, sow doubt, destroy their champion, the rest would falter. You have a champion of your own here, do you not? Hale and Varro exchange a look. On this world, Hale says. No, but the Imperium has its angels. Varro nods slowly. Astartes, he says. Space Marines, the Emperor's superhuman warriors. There is a small detachment from the Angels of Redemption chapter in system. They came to investigate Chaos cult activity months ago. Their strike cruiser is currently on the far side of the star, out of direct Vox range. He taps a control rune on the holosphere. A green icon appears in the outer system. If we can reach them and call them here, they could strike at the Broken Claw's flagship, Varro says. But we do not know if the warband has a champion aboard. We only know the name of their fleet and the mark of their patron. World Eaters, Lyra repeats quietly. Khorne, the blood god. Obi-Wan feels the weight in that name. He does not know the god, but he knows what it means to worship blood. That sorcerer outside, he says. He serves this blood god too. Yes, Varro says. He is a lesser leader, a herald. The true champion will be aboard their main ship, or perhaps in the warp, waiting to fully manifest when enough blood has been spilled. Obi-Wan nods. Then we must keep the blood from reaching that point, he says. Hold here. Hold your cities. Buy time. I will help. And when your Space Marines arrive, I will go with them, if they will have me. Together, we can cut off the head of the beast. Varro's jaw tightens. You speak as if you are already part of the Imperium's war machine, he says. You are not. You are a loose factor, a risk, but a risk we cannot ignore. Hale looks up at the holosphere, then at the walls of the bunker, as if he can see the hive beyond. This is my world, he says quietly. My duty is to these people. If I must use a strange blade to keep them alive, I will. Inquisitor Kiran, I authorize the use of this Jedi as a special asset under your direct oversight. Varro's eyes flicker in annoyance, but he bows his head. As you command, Lord Governor, he says. I will keep him on a short leash. He turns to Obi-Wan. You will fight under Imperial command for now, he says. You will obey my orders. If you show even a hint of corruption, even a whisper of chaos in your actions, I will burn you. Obi-Wan holds his gaze. I have stood in the presence of Sith Lords, he says. I have watched them fall into darkness. I have watched myself almost follow. I will not serve your chaos. Words, Varro says. We will see your deeds. The bunker trembles as a distant explosion rattles the walls. Lyra's vox bead crackles with new screams. Captain Voss, the sorcerer, is on the move. He's tearing the wall. We need support now. She looks to Hale. Go, he says. Hold the line. The Emperor watches. Lyra nods and turns to Obi-Wan. Ready? She asks. He ignites his saber. The blue light fills the dim bunker. I am, he says. Let's give your people a chance. They reach the surface to find the world ending at the wall. The sorcerer has grown. Warp fire wraps around him like a cloak. His armor is larger, thicker, covered in new spikes and symbols carved by invisible claws. His eyes glow like twin coals. Every step he takes leaves prints of burning brass in the stone. He is tearing at the wall with his mind. Stonecrete twists and cracks under invisible pressure. Towers tremble. Great chunks of masonry rip free and hover, then fly outward like thrown boulders to smash guard positions. Men die by the dozen. Some are crushed. Some are hurled from the battlements to fall screaming into the streets below. The air tastes of iron and ash. The warp screams in a voice only psychers can hear. Obi-Wan feels his own connection to the Force shudder, like a bridge in an earthquake. This is worse than any Sith, he murmurs. Lyra takes a deep breath and starts barking orders even as she runs. Pull back from the breach. Heavy weapons on me. Focus everything on that bastard's head. Las fire and heavy shells slam into the sorcerer's armor, but most shots curve away or burn in mid-air. The warp field surrounding him warps reality in small, angry ways. Obi-Wan steps forward. He feels the wrongness pressing on him, trying to get in through every crack in his mind. The force inside him pushes back. It is not from this warp, but it is still a light in the dark. He reaches out. Enough, he says. The sorcerer turns. Their eyes meet across the broken wall. You again, the monster growls. His voice is deeper now, layered with echoes. The little light that fell from the sky. I will feed you to the blood god first. Obi-Wan's saber hums softly in his hand. I have heard such boasts before, he says. They usually end the same way. On your knees, the sorcerer jeers. In silence, Obi-Wan replies. The sorcerer roars and hurls a blast of warp fire. Obi-Wan raises his hand. The flames hit a barrier of pure will. For a moment, it holds. Then cracks appear. Heat sears his skin. Pain stabs behind his eyes. He feels the warp trying to ride the path of his own power back into him. He does not let it. He turns. He bends. He guides. The warp fire curves, slamming into an empty section of wall and exploding outward. Guardsmen cheer. Then the cheer dies as the sorcerer laughs. Good, the monster says. You do not belong here. You do not know the rules. Every trick you use cuts your own soul. Keep fighting, little light. Make yourself easier to eat. Obi-Wan's legs tremble. His heart pounds. He breathes. There is fear in him. There is always fear. The Jedi taught him to see it and let it go. He cannot let go of all of it here. Not with this sea of madness pressing on his mind. But he can stand. "Captain," he says, not taking his eyes off the sorcerer, "pull your men back another 20 meters. Clear a path in front of me." Lyra looks confused, then obeys. "Back. Fall back in good order," she shouts. "Make a lane. Don't question it." The guardsmen move. They trust her voice. They have no choice. A wide, battered strip of wall lies empty before Obi-Wan now, filled with craters and bodies and broken weapons. He takes a slow step forward, then another. "Obi-Wan," Lyra calls, "what are you doing?" "What I was trained to do," he says. He breaks into a run. The sorcerer roars and throws more warp blasts, each one shrieking like a choir of lost souls. Obi-Wan weaves between them, jumping, rolling, sliding. Each shot he deflects with his saber sends sparks of warp energy flying in wild arcs. He gets close enough. He leaps. For a moment, he is above it all. War, fire, screams. The whole broken wall spreads out beneath him. His robe billows. His saber is a streak of blue. He lands on the edge of the sorcerer's warped aura and pushes through. It feels like diving into ice and acid at once. His skin crawls. His ears fill with whispers. Faces he does not know flicker before his eyes, twisting and burning. He ignores them. The sorcerer swings a fist the size of a man's torso. Obi-Wan ducks, slides inside the blow, and drives his saber up. The blade bites. For a heartbeat, it seems like it will slide off, like the armor is too thick, too warped. Then the force surges through him and into the weapon. The blue light flares. The saber cuts through the corrupted arm at the elbow. Warp fire gushes out instead of blood. The severed arm crashes to the ground and continues to twitch, fingers clawing at the stone. The sorcerer screams. It is a sound that shakes the teeth in Obi-Wan's head. He staggers back, clutching the smoking stump. Warp energy flares around him in wild, uncontrolled blasts. The wall cracks further. Guardsmen are thrown like dolls. One tower simply collapses, crushed under impossible weight. Obi-Wan is caught in the blast. He flies backward, slams into the wall, and falls. His saber tumbles from his hand, deactivating as it spins away. Pain flares in his ribs. Something cracks. The world swims. He blinks up at the sky. The tear he fell through has closed, but the warp's presence is stronger now. He can feel the chaos fleet above, like teeth waiting to bite. The sorcerer staggers too. His aura flickers. His connection to the warp stutters. He has been hurt in a way he did not expect, by a kind of power he does not fully understand. He glares at Obi-Wan. "You will pay for that," he snarls. He raises his remaining hand to call down a final crushing blast. A new sound cuts through the cacophony. Deep, thunderous, like the footsteps of a god. Shapes drop from the sky, trailing fire. At first, Obi-Wan thinks they are meteors. Then he sees the pattern, the way they burn in straight lines, not wild arcs. The way their hulls are controlled even as they fall, drop pods. They slam into the battlefield with the impact of small bombs. Doors blow out, slamming into the ground. Smoke pours from the openings. From each metal coffin strides a giant. They are taller than any man, taller even than the sorcerer, now hunched and wounded. Their armor is thick and carved with symbols. Their helmets are smooth-faced, with glowing lenses where their eyes should be. Their pauldrons bear a green field crossed by a bone-colored winged sword. Angels of redemption, Astartes. Each holds a weapon that is half gun, half cannon. Some also carry swords that shimmer faintly, their edges humming with power. They march in perfect order, no fear, no hesitation. Astartes, the Emperor's chosen. Guardsmen fall to their knees. Some weep, some cry out prayers. Lyra stares, eyes wide. "I've only seen them in picked captures," she whispers, "never in person." Obi-Wan pulls himself to his feet, leaning on the wall. He has never seen such warriors. Not even clone troopers in their best armor match this presence. The Force clings to them in a strange way. Not as strong as the sorcerer, not like trained Jedi, but focused, hardened. Their minds are iron wrapped in habit and faith. The lead Astartes raises his weapon. "Brothers," his voice booms from external speakers, "cleanse the filth." Bolter fire thunders. Each shot is a tiny rocket that explodes on impact. Cultists vanish in sprays of gore. Mutants burst apart. The sorcerer staggers back as the explosive shells tear at his armor. He throws up a warp shield, but it is weaker now. The severed arm still twitches at his feet, leaking warp fire like blood. Obi-Wan limps forward, finding his saber and pulling it to his hand with a weak tug. Lyra runs to his side, supporting him. "You picked a good time to hurt him," she says hoarsely. "They can finish the job." "No," Obi-Wan says softly. "Not yet. He's tied to something deeper. If we kill him without breaking that tie, it will just find another host." "How do you know?" she asks. "I can feel it," he says, "the same way I felt this place from my own world." She looks at him, at the strain in his face, at the blood at the corner of his mouth. "Then tell the angels," she says, "because they will kill him. That's what they do." And Astartes strides toward them, weapon held across his chest. He is huge up close. His green armor is scarred but well kept. A robed figure is painted on one pauldron, a sword raised high. His helmet is off. His face is pale and hard, with a small tattoo of a winged sword below one eye. "I am Brother Sergeant Malkiel," he says. "Angels of Redemption, 3rd Company." "Who commands this sector?" "Lord Governor Hale," Lyra says, "and Inquisitor Varokiran." Malkiel's gaze shifts to Obi-Wan. "And who are you?" he asks. "Obi-Wan Kenobi," Obi-Wan says. "Jedi Knight, outsider." Malkiel eyes the saber. "A Xenos weapon," he says, "or some relic of old Knight. We will speak of this later. For now, the Inquisitor has sent orders. We are to stabilize this sector and then prepare for assault on the enemy flagship." He turns back toward the sorcerer, who is now locked in a desperate exchange of warp blasts and bolter fire. "This creature must die," Malkiel says. "His death will break the back of their assault on this hive." Obi-Wan shakes his head. "His death may free something worse," he says. "There is a hook in him. I can feel it. If it pulls free, it will look for another place to take root. Maybe in your men. Maybe in your world." Malkiel frowns. "We have fought sorcerers before," he says. "We know their tricks." "You have not fought one anchored to this," Obi-Wan says, glancing at the dark sky. "To a fleet that came through the same kind of wound I used. That wound is still raw. If we are not careful, we will only make it wider." Malkiel studies him. "The Inquisitor warned me you were a strange one," he says. "But also that you fought well." He glances at the sorcerer. "What do you suggest?" he asks. Obi-Wan takes a deep breath. "I need to cut the tie between him and whatever waits beyond," he says. "Not just his body, his connection. I do not know if I can. This warp is not my home. It hurts to touch, but if I do not try, you may win this battle and lose the war." Malkiel looks out at the battlefield. Guardsmen die holding the line. Astartes stride through fire, their armor scorched. The sorcerer's laughter rises and falls with each surge of warp power. "We do not fear long wars," Malkiel says. "We are made for them. But you speak of something else, a corruption that spreads." "Yes," Obi-Wan says. Malkiel nods once. "Very well," he says. "You will attempt your cut. My brothers will focus on breaking his armor and disrupting his concentration. If you fall to corruption, I will kill you myself." Obi-Wan gives a tired smile. "Everyone keeps saying that," he murmurs. "Because everyone understands the stakes," Malkiel says. He raises his bolter and signals his squad. "Angels," he shouts. "On me. Target the limbs, cripple the beast, leave his mind to the psyker." He glances at Obi-Wan. "Or Jedi," he adds. They charge. Up to now, Obi-Wan has fallen into a new galaxy, earned fragile trust by saving a guard regiment, and seen a Chaos Sorcerer and an Astartes strike force show him the scale of this endless war. The Chaos fleet above is moving, and every choice he makes cuts deeper into a psychic sea that is not his own. The angels of redemption move like green thunder. They fan out along the shattered wall, boots cracking stone. Bolters bark in tight bursts, not wild sprays. Each shot is chosen. Each shot kills. Cultists detonate as mass reactive shells punch into them and explode. The Chaos Sorcerer snarls and throws up a curtain of warp flame. It boils the air. It burns men just to look at it. The closest guardsmen fall screaming, armor melting into their skin. Malkiel does not slow. "Forward," he roars. "Faith and fire." His brothers answer with a single wordless shout. Their armor glows with reflected hell light as they stride through the heat. Obi-Wan feels that heat like knives on his face. He also feels the pressure under it, the way the warp field is woven. It is not just a wall. It is a net, tied back to something far above. The fleet. He closes his eyes for a second and reaches. The force meets the warp like fresh water meeting a stormy sea. It swirls, it bucks, it tries to drag him under. He holds his center and looks for the knot. There, he sees it with his mind more than his eyes. A line of hate and blood runs from the sorcerer's chest up into the sky. It goes past the clouds, past the thin air, past even the orbiting ships. It vanishes into a deeper darkness beyond. If that line snaps wrong, the backlash will hit this world. It might tear new wounds in reality. It might pour demons into the sky like a broken dam. He cannot let that happen. He steps forward, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "Malkiel," he shouts. "Aim for his armor seals. Do not kill him outright until I say." The Astartes sergeant glances back in brief surprise. Then he nods once. "You heard him," he roars. "Kneecap the beast. Bring him low." Bolter fire shifts. Shells hammer the sorcerer's legs, hips and shoulders. One knee joint explodes in a spray of corrupted brass and meat. The giant lurches, falls to one side and slams into the wall, shaking it again. He tries to rise. Bolter shells smash into one elbow. The joint gives way. His remaining hand scrabbles for purchase on broken stone. He is pinned but still dangerous. Warp energy crackles around him in wild arcs. Obi-Wan closes his hand around his saber and does not ignite it yet. He breathes in, out, in again. He builds a small, tight sphere of calm in his mind. He imagines it as a clear space, a clean room where no whisper of the warp can enter. He learned such tricks long ago, in Jedi training, to keep the dark side at bay. Now he must do something harder. He must force that bubble into a place already filled. He pushes with the force. The knot at the sorcerer's chest fights him. It pulses with each beat of the giant's mutated heart. It is tied to screams from above. to drums made of skulls, to a roar that is not a voice but a constant hunger. Obi-Wan feels it all in a rush. His stomach turns, his head spins. He keeps going. He wraps his calm around the knot and squeezes. The sorcerer throws his head back and howls. "What are you doing to me?" the monster bellows. His voice is layered again, but now the extra sounds are not strong. They are tearing, fraying. He tries to pull more power, to drink deeper from the warp. But Obi-Wan's grip is there, not letting the flow spread. The power hits a wall of calm and crashes against it. The warp screams in fury. Reality around them flickers. For a heartbeat, the sky turns the color of dried blood. For another, the ground looks like glass. Then it snaps back. Stone cracks, men fall, but the world does not break. Obi-Wan's legs shake. Sweat runs down his face. His nose bleeds freely now, red drops falling onto the ruined wall. "Now," he gasps. "Now, Malkil." The Astartes sergeant understands. "Angels," he shouts. "By the Emperor's will," he charges. The sorcerer swings wildly with his stump and remaining limb, hurling chunks of stone with his mind. They bounce off ceramite armor or smash into the wall behind the angels. Bolters thunder at point-blank range, chewing deeper into joints and plates. One angel leaps, landing on the monster's chestplate with a crash. His power sword flares to life, its edge glowing. "Litanies of hate," he roars, voice thick with zeal. He plunges the blade into the warped armor, carving a glowing wound in the shape of a crooked cross. Obi-Wan feels the knot stir under that strike. He moves. He runs as best he can, lungs burning, ribs aching. The world blurs around him. He reaches the base of the fallen giant and leaps, using the force to carry him up. He lands beside the angel on the sorcerer's chest. Up close, the warp's presence is almost unbearable. It claws at his mind. It whispers offers, power, safety, an easy end to pain. He ignores it. He ignites his saber. The blue light shines against the red glow of the power sword. The two auras push against each other but do not fight. Their targets are the same. "Move, please," Obi-Wan says calmly. The angel gives him a quick, sharp look. Then he shifts to one side, holding his sword buried in the armor to keep the wound open. Obi-Wan lifts his saber. He can see it now. Under the cracked plates of brass and bone, something else pulses. A symbol, burned into flesh and reality. A rune of the blood god. It is the anchor. He brings his blade down. The stroke is slow, careful. He puts not just strength into it, but intent. He focuses on the idea of a clean cut. Not tearing, not ripping, just severing. The saber slides through corrupted metal and meat. It hits the rune. For a second, nothing happens. Then everything happens. The knot unravels at once. Warp energy that had a clear path suddenly has nowhere to go. It tries to explode outward. Obi-Wan refuses to let it. He throws everything he has into the calm sphere around it. He squeezes harder, shaping the blast like he would guide a ship through a tight gap. The energy bursts, but instead of rushing in all directions, it shoots straight up. From the ground, it is a column of red and black fire that rockets into the sky. From orbit, it is a spike of raw warp light that punches through the thin veil around the planet. It slams into the nearest Chaos ship, the one closest to the fleet's command channel. On that ship, demons scream. Its Geller field, the shield that keeps the warp out, warps and twists. For a moment, reality inside the hull is a storm. Men and machines turn inside out. Blood flows up instead of down. Then the surge passes. The ship survives, but its warding is scarred. Its link to the champion at the center of the fleet is burned. On the ground, the sorcerer goes still. His eyes flicker. For a heartbeat, they show something almost human. Regret, fear. Then they dim. His body collapses inward, armor folding like soft wax. It crumbles into ash. Obi-Wan sways. The calm sphere around the blast flickers and dies. The leftover warp energy rolls over him like a hot wind, but most of its force is gone. The link is cut. He drops to one knee on the smoking ruin of the chest. His vision tunnels. The angel beside him grabs his robe and hauls him to his feet with one hand. "Stay upright, little psyker," the giant says. "If you fall now, you will be trampled." Obi-Wan gives a weak chuckle. "I have been called many things," he says. "That one is new." The angels of redemption stand around the spreading pile of ash. Guardsmen stare in awe and terror. Some cheer. Some cross themselves and whisper thanks to the Emperor. Some simply sink to the floor, exhausted. The first major assault on Hive Eidolon's wall has failed. Hours later, the guns finally go quiet. The last organized cultist units break and scatter. A few are gunned down as they run. Some throw down their weapons and beg for mercy. Many are crushed under rubble or trampled in the chaos. Medicae teams swarm the wall. They drag the wounded to triage stations. They cover the dead with stained sheets. The smell of blood and burnt flesh hangs over everything. Obi-Wan sits on a crate near a field medici post. A harried chirurgeon in stained robes has wrapped his ribs and given him something that tastes like bitter metal for the pain. He refused full sedation. He does not have time to sleep. Lyra stands beside him, a fresh bandage on her forehead. "Casualties?" he asks. "Bad," she says softly. "Not total disaster, but bad. We held the wall. That's what matters in the report. But I'll be writing letters to too many families." "You write them yourself?" he asks. "When I can," she says. "Makes it harder to throw lives away later." He nods. "I am sorry," he says. "I tried to shape the blast up, but..." Lyra snorts. "You saved the hive," she says. "If that thing had fully exploded sideways, we might not be here to be sad. I'll take sad over dead." He looks out at the battlefield. Bodies lie in heaps, some in guard uniforms, some in cult rags, some twisted in ways that were never meant to be. "I wish there had been another way," he says. "There is never another way," Lyra says. "Just less bad ones." He does not argue. She is not wrong. A Chimera transport grinds to a halt nearby. Its front hatch slams down. Inquisitor Varro steps out, coat still neat despite the chaos. Brother Sergeant Malkiel follows, his armor scraped and soot-stained. "Master Kenobi," Varro says. "Captain Voss, Lord Governor Hale wishes to see you in person. We have matters to discuss." Lyra exchanges a quick glance with Obi-Wan. "Matters like, 'Thank you for not letting my hive fall, I hope,'" she mutters. "Matters like, 'What in the Emperor's name did you just do to the warp?'" Varro corrects sharply. Obi-Wan stands, wincing. "I will come," he says. "There are questions I must ask as well." Malkiel watches him closely. "You cut the demon's leash," the Astartes says. "I felt the warp recoil. That is not a trick many librarians would attempt." "I am not one of your librarians," Obi-Wan says, "and I hope I never need to try it again." "You may not have a choice," Malkiel says. They board the Chimera. As it rattles back toward the command bunker, Obi-Wan closes his eyes and reaches out again. The Force feels thinner now. He has burned through much of his own strength, but he can still sense the shape of things above. The Chaos Fleet is confused. Its pattern has shifted. One ship flickers like a candle in a storm. The others hold formation, but the tight focus of their rage has loosened. Something or someone up there is angry in a more focused way now. The War Council room is more crowded this time. Lord Governor Hale stands at the head of the table again, but his carapace armor has been partially removed. A medic is stitching a cut on his arm as he talks. To his right sits a robed woman with a shaved head and a blindfold over her eyes. She wears a collar of gold and copper cables that feed into a machine behind her. Her hands shake slightly. To his left stands a tall figure in red robes covered in hanging metal tags and small icons. Half his face is metal, with a glowing red eye. Servo arms twitch behind his shoulders. Astropath, tech priest. Varro and Malkiel take places near the center. Lyra stands a little behind them. Obi-Wan is given a chair near the end of the table. The holosphere floats above them again, showing updated icons. "We owe you our gratitude," Hale says as Obi-Wan sits. "Our walls still stand. The sorcerer is dead. That alone has saved tens of thousands of lives, if not more." Obi-Wan inclines his head. "I did what I could," he says. "Your soldiers did the rest." Lyra fights a small smile. Varro does not. "You also manipulated a warp event on a planetary scale," the Inquisitor says. The astropaths felt it. The choir screamed. The blindfolded woman shivers. "It was like a knife made of clean light," she whispers. "It cut across the song. It hurt the enemy, but it hurt us too." Obi-Wan looks at her. "I am sorry," he says. "I did not mean to harm you." "You did what was needed," she says. "Pain is part of the duty." The tech priest's mechadendrites click. "Analysis. Localized warp vector inversion," he says in a flat metallic tone. "Unprecedented within data of this forge. Probability of total reality breach, high, yet event constrained. Causative agent. Xenos class Psyker designation Kenobi." "I am not a Xenos," Obi-Wan says with mild patience. "I am human." "Genetic deviation probability. Unknown," the tech priest says. "Presence from extragalactic coordinate. Confirmed. For purposes of doctrine, classification as Xenos tech anomaly remains within acceptable variance." "You see what I mean," Varro says lightly. "You have shaken our universe, Master Kenobi. That would get you burned on half the worlds in this sector." "And on this one?" Obi-Wan asks. Hale leans on the table. "On this one," he says, "you have bought yourself a hearing at least, and bought my people time." He gestures to the holosphere. "The Broken Claw fleet has shifted," he said. "Magos." The tech priest taps a rune. The image zooms out. The green icon of the Astartes strike cruiser has begun to arc toward the planet. The red icons of the Chaos warships form a crescent facing it. "They are not retreating," the tech priest says. "However, central coordination output has dropped by 42%. Subcommand signals have increased. Pattern identifies high likelihood of internal disruption. Hypothesis: primary warlord or demon patron suffered temporary severance from field assets." "In plain Gothic, Magos," Lyra mutters. "Their boss got his nose punched," Malkiel says. "The underlings are yelling at each other more." Obi-Wan smiles faintly. "Good?" he says. "Do not smile too soon," Varro says. "Predators are most dangerous when wounded." He points at a new cluster of red icons closer to the planet. "Our augurs picked this up during the lull," he says. "Multiple fast attack craft detaching from the main fleet. Their vectors converge here." A tiny point of light flashes over the hive on the hollow. "They plan to strike Eidolon directly again," Hale says. "Not just with rabble this time," Varro adds. "Intercepted Vox traffic speaks of a butcher prophet and a crucible." Malkiel's expression hardens. "I've heard of such things," he says. "Khorne's champions who study psyker-killing arts. Their hatred of witchcraft becomes a blade. He looks at Obi-Wan. "This foe will target you," he says, "and any other psyker on the field. He will see you as a prize." "He will see me as a weapon to break," Obi-Wan says, "if he understands what I am." "He will not need to," Varro says. "Your little light show has already told him. There is a new kind of witch here. He will come hunting." "Then let him," Obi-Wan says quietly. Lyra turns to stare at him. "Obi-Wan," she says, "you almost broke yourself just now. You're still shaking. You can't just stand in the open and dare this monster to hit you." "I can choose where I stand," he says, "and how I fight." Varro folds his arms. "Before we throw you at the next hellbeast, we must settle something," he says. "Your presence here is both a weapon and a threat. The war doubles every moral problem. So let us speak of what you did with the prisoners." Obi-Wan blinks. "The prisoners?" he asks. Lyra's mouth tightens. "We pulled in a few live cultists," she says, "and some civilians the sorcerer had twisted, not fully gone. Still, halfway. Varro had opinions." Hale sighs. "Inquisitor Kieran ordered them all put to the torch," he said. "Men, women and children. No screening, no test, just a clean purge." Obi-Wan's stomach drops. "And you objected?" he asks Lyra. "I did," she says. "So did a few of my officers. We asked to at least try to separate the worst from the maybe savable. Varro said any delay was a risk. That chaos corruption is never worth mercy." Varro does not flinch. "I stand by that order," he says. "I have seen what happens when we hesitate, when we try to save those who are already damned. Whole hives fall, whole worlds." Obi-Wan looks at him, at the hard lines in his face. "Where I come from," he says slowly, "we also faced enemies who twisted minds. We also struggled with how far to go to stop them. But burning children without even looking into their eyes, that is not justice. That is fear. Fear keeps worlds alive," Varro says. "Fear of the Inquisition. Fear of the Emperor's wrath. It stops men from making pacts in the dark. It also breeds hatred," Obi-Wan says. "Hatred leads to more darkness. I have seen that too." "Save your philosophy," Varro snaps. "We are not talking about an abstract. We are talking about specific cases. Those children were found chanting praises to the blood god over a pile of fresh skulls. They had teeth filed to points. Their eyes bled warp light. They were gone." Obi-Wan swallows. He had not known that detail. "Do you have any who are less clear?" he asks. "Borderline cases? Those touched but not yet lost?" Hale nods slowly. "In the Underhive," he says. "There are whole hab blocks where the sorcerer's whispers reached. Some turned fully. Some only saw shadows. We do not know who is safe." "And Varro," Obi-Wan asks, "recommends sealing those levels and burning them from orbit," Hale says. Lyra winces. "Those blocks hold almost 1 million people," she says. "Maybe more. Many are poor but loyal. They are just there." "They are at risk," Varro says. "The warp does not care if you are poor or loyal. If it touched you, you are a possible gateway. I will not gamble this hive on maybe." Obi-Wan looks around the table. He sees war in every face. War has taught them harsh lessons. War has taken their old lines and pushed them toward extremes. "Where I come from," he says quietly, "our code says, there is no emotion, there is peace." But that line was never fully true. We always felt. We just pretended we did not. And because we pretended, we missed when fear and pride grew. Our order fell in part because we were too rigid to see our own cracks. Malkiel tilts his head. "Our own code says there is no forgiveness for the unrepentant," the Astartes says. We kill the foes of the Emperor without mercy, yet we also guard worlds full of weakness and sin. If we killed every sinner, there would be no Imperium left to save. Exactly, Obi-Wan says. Mercy without care is foolish. Doctrine without mercy is brittle. There must be balance. Varro's lip curls. Balance is a word cowards use to avoid hard choices, he says. Balance is what keeps a man from falling off a cliff. Obi-Wan replies. Silence hangs for a moment. Hale finally raises a hand. I cannot order the Inquisition, he says, but I can decide what happens in my hive. Here is my problem. If I follow Varro's advice and burn the lower levels, I kill many innocents to save many more. If I do not, I risk the whole hive falling to corruption later. Both choices are murder on some scale. Exactly, Varro says. There is no clean path. I am not asking for clean, Hale says. I am asking for less hell. He looks at Obi-Wan. You came here because you felt our pain, he says. If you were in my place, what would you do? Obi-Wan feels the question hit like a blow. He thinks of the temple, of the clones turning their guns, of younglings cut down, of choices made too late. He also thinks of villages he saved by making hard calls, of people he could not save because he hesitated. There are tools you have that I did not, he says slowly. You have psychers who can sense corruption. You have devices. He nods toward the tech priest. Machines that can scan for warp taint. Crude, but functional, the Magos says. Use them, Obi-Wan says. Not to save everyone. That may be impossible, but to cut more finely. Screen the lower hives block by block. Isolate the worst. Evacuate as many of the rest as you can. It will cost time and lives. It will also save more than a blind purge. Varro shakes his head. You think in duels, he says. One foe at a time. We think in hives and sectors. There is no time for block by block if the next wave hits while we are still arguing. Then we buy time, Obi-Wan says. We hold the next wave away from the hive. We draw their champion to us, somewhere else. Lyra nods slowly. Use the upper hive as bait, she says. Make a forward kill zone away from crowded levels. If we can pull their heavy hitters and beat them, the underhive has more time to be screened. Hale rubs his temples. I hear both sides, he says. Varro, you are right about the risk. Obi-Wan, you are right about the damage blind purges cause. I will not order an orbital burn. Not yet. We will begin block screening. If corruption runs too deep to cut, we may still have to burn, but we will at least look first. Varro stares at him. You risk doom, he says quietly. I risk it every day I sit in this chair, Hale replies. I would rather not add my own soul to the pile by killing 1 million people without trying anything else. Varro's jaw tightens. So be it, he says. But understand this, Lord Governor. If the hive falls because of this mercy, the Ordo Hereticus will judge not only you, but this world. And if it stands because we did not make butchers of ourselves too quickly, Hale says, perhaps the Emperor will judge us with some measure of favor. Malkiel watches them both. You walk a knife edge, he says. That is the Imperium's way. He turns to Obi-Wan. You speak of balance, he says. Careful. In this age, men who speak that word often mean weakness, but I have seen warriors who held to a narrow line and did not fall. Perhaps you will be one of them. Obi-Wan nods. I will try, he says. Varro leans forward. For now, this is the truth, he says. We have won a battle, not the war. The enemy adapts. They have seen your tricks. They will bring counters. As if summoned by his words, the astropath suddenly gasps. Her blindfolded head snaps up. Her fingers dig into the arms of her chair. They see him, she whispers. In the warp, they name him. The butcher prophet has spoken. Cold washes through the room. What does he say? Varro asks. She shudders. He says, the Force light has entered the field. I will bring the crucible, and we will drink his soul dry. The alarm klaxons begin to howl an hour later. Red lights flash in the bunker. Officers shout. Vox channels howl with overlapping reports. Enemy drop pods inbound, multiple signatures. New energy field detected over Sector 12, psycho readings collapsing. Contact lost with forward librarian squad. Obi-Wan feels it too. A spreading emptiness moves across the city, like a shadow that eats more than light. Where it passes, his sense of the Force fades, not fully gone, but muffled, as if wrapped in thick cloth. He grips the edge of the table. What is that? He asks. Malkiel's face has gone very still. The crucible, he says, or something like it. Varro points at the holosphere. A new icon has appeared over a different part of the hive, not the wall they fought on. A deeper level closer to the hive's heart, near a cluster marked as astropathic and command spires. They are not hitting the old breach, Varro says. They are going for our mind and our voice. The choir, the astropath whispers. They come for us. Hale swears softly. If they kill the astropaths and Vox hubs, we are deaf and blind, he says. We will not be able to call for more aid or coordinate what we have. And if that null field spreads, Malkiel says, any psyker in its reach will be crippled or killed. Their minds burn when they cannot feel the warp and yet are still tied to it. He glances at Obi-Wan. That includes you, he says. Even if your force is not exactly the warp, it touches some of the same layer. Obi-Wan nods. I can feel it, he says. A dead spot. I have met something like this once before. A being with no presence in the Force. Void. It was hard to face. Here. They have turned that into a weapon field, Varro says. A zone where witchcraft dies. We have seen smaller versions. Collars of corn. Pariah grenades. But this scale. He shakes his head. The tech priest taps a rune. A smaller hollow pops up, showing the new energy field's outline. Analysis. Area nullification radius expanding at 20 meters per minute, he says. At current rate, Choir Spire will be fully submerged in 30 minutes. Total shutdown of astropathic function expected. Can we move them? Lyra asks. The astropath laughs, a bitter, breathless sound. We are wired into the bones of the hive, she says. Our souls are braided with the beacon. If we leave, we die, and the beacon dims. If we stay, and this field reaches us, we die, and the beacon dies. Two paths, same end. Obi-Wan's mind races. A field that eats his connection. A champion who hates psykers and knows how to use that hate. An attack aimed where it hurts most. This is a smarter foe. How does this crucible work? He asks. Malkiel answers. Khorne despises the warp's trickery, but loves its power, he says. Some of his servants forge devices that do two things at once. They drink psychic energy from the air, and they turn that energy into rage for his warriors. In a crucible's reach, psykers grow weak. World eaters grow stronger. Varro nods. Imagine a storm that only falls on witches, he says. But the thunder it makes feeds the froth on the berserker's lips. Lyra grimaces. That is not great, she says. Obi-Wan closes his eyes and tests the air again. The dead patch is larger now. Where it touches his awareness, the Force feels thin and strained. Not gone, but far away. If I step into that field, I will be half blind, he says. Most of what I can do will be cut off. Welcome to how the rest of us live, Lyra mutters. Yes, he says, but your skills are built for that. Mine are not. I must adapt. Hale looks at Varro and Malkiel. Options, he asks. We cannot allow the choir to fall, Varro says. Without them, we are stranded. We also cannot allow this crucible to grow unchecked. If it reaches the main manufactoria districts, our battle psychers and shield projectors will all fail. The angels will strike, Malkiel says. We will drop into the field and fight the butcher prophet and whatever guards he brings. You will be weaker there, Obi-Wan says. We are not psychers, Malkiel says. Our strength is muscle, ceramite, and faith. The field will not touch us as it touches you. It will still twist things, the astropath says. The warp does not like holes. It grows angry at them. Reality will bend at the edges. Good, Malkiel says. Then the enemy will be as confused as we are. Varro shakes his head. Bold but not enough, he says. The butcher prophet will not come alone. He will bring skull-masked elites. He will bring those implanted with butcher's nails, the rage machines in their skulls. They will be stronger under the crucible. You will not. Obi-Wan stands. Then I must go with them, he says. Lyra stares. Into the psyker kill zone, she says. When your ribs are cracked and your head is ringing. With your main tricks turned off. That seems bad. If I stay away, he says, they will take the choir, and they will expand their field until I cannot touch any part of this battle. I will be a bystander while your world falls. I did not come here to watch. Varro's eyes narrow. You cannot use your full power in that field, he says, which is one reason I am tempted to approve this plan. Hale gives him a sharp look. Varro spreads his hands. If he breaks under pressure, the field may limit the damage, he says. If he holds, we gain an asset where the enemy thinks him weakest. That is a very Inquisitor answer, Lyra says dryly. It is a war answer, Varro says. Malkiel studies Obi-Wan. Can you fight without your witchcraft? He asks. Your sword work is strong. I could see that even from a distance. But are you ready to fight as a simple man with a blade, with only a thin whisper of your power? Obi-Wan thinks of his many duels, of fights where his connection was cut or clouded, of times he had to rely on training alone. I can, he says. It will hurt, but I can. Malkiel nods once. Then we will take you, he says. We will drop at the edge of the crucible, push toward its heart, and cut out this butcher prophet. Captain Voss, Hale says, your regiment is the least mauled and you know the underhive routes. You will guide their descent and secure a corridor for evac if we can move any astropaths out at the last moment. Lyra draws in a breath. Understood, she says. Hale turns back to Obi-Wan. This is our next line, he says. Hold the choir and break this champion, and we may yet live long enough for the Angel's strike cruiser to hit the fleet. Fail, and the hive goes dark, and all our clever debates won't matter. Obi-Wan bows his head. I will do what I can, he says. Do more than that, Varro says. Do what you must. In a crucible field, normal psychers drown. Malkiel tells his squad in the gunship bay. Their connection to the warp is cut, but their minds are still open. The pressure builds. They bleed out through the eyes and ears. The butcher prophet has learned to twist that, Varro says over the vox. He sets his crucible to drink that pressure. It turns every psycher's pain into strength for his warriors. The more your little witch hurts, the harder your foes will hit. In our librarian records, a distant Astartes librarian adds, only 1 in 100 sanctioned psychers can operate near such a device without losing control. Your Kenobi is not even of our warp. If he holds his mind, he may reach places our own cannot. If he breaks, the backlash could feed the crucible beyond any model we have seen. The drop bay shakes as the gunship hits turbulence. Red runes flicker on the walls. Servo rails hum. The angels of redemption stand in full armor, hands hooked into ceiling grips. They sway as one, heavy boots planted. Lyra and her squad of guard veterans stand in a small gap between giants. Their flak armor looks thin beside ceramite. Their eyes are tight but steady. Obi-Wan stands near the forward ramp. He feels the crucible's edge as they approach. The force thins, like air at high altitude. Each breath takes more effort. Malkiel's voice cuts through the engine's roar. "Final briefing," he says. "Listen and fix it in your minds." A hollow projector built into the bay flickers on. A crude wireframe map appears. It shows a slice of hive eidolon, layers of hab blocks, support pillars, and old tunnels. At the center is a glowing sphere. "This is the crucible zone," Malkiel says. "Radius 200 meters and growing. Inside it, psychic activity drops to almost nothing. Psychers die there. Warp shields fail. Our standard librarian support is useless." Red dots flicker at several points around the sphere. "These are enemy positions," Varro's voice says over the Voxlink. "Berserker squads, chain axe elites, some armored support. Their goal is to reach the choir spire here and overload it." Another dot lights up above the sphere. "If they can crack the choir's defenses," Varro goes on, "they can weld the astropathic beacon to their crucible. Then they can pulse this null field through the warp itself. Every psyker tied to the beacon will burn. Every fleet depending on it will go blind." Lyra frowns. "Why not just shell the whole area from orbit?" she asks. "Drop a few big rocks, crush the crucible under rubble." "Because the choir spire stands above it," Varro says. "We would kill our own astropaths along with the enemy. And because the crucible's field scrambles targeting, anything less than a direct hit would just stir the mess." The tech priest's flat tone comes in next. "Additional factor, structural risk," he says. "Hive load calculations suggest that full orbital impact on that sector would trigger cascading collapses. Upper hive levels could fall into the underhive. Estimated death toll, 3 to 5 billion. Obi-Wan closes his eyes briefly. 3 to 5 billion. "So artillery is off the table," Lyra says. "And psychers cannot get close. That leaves us with, what? Knives?" "Knives and faith," Malkiel says. "And one off-world wildcard." He nods toward Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan straightens. "In summary," Varro says, "standard counters fail because the crucible turns our strength into weakness. Our psychers feed it. Our heavy guns risk killing more of us than of them. The only viable answer is a focused strike, elite infantry, and one aberrant element." The gunship jolts as it descends. Warning runes flash yellow, then green again. "Our path," Malkiel says, tapping the hollow. "We drop here at the outer edge." A blue point appears just outside the sphere. We push along this old service tunnel, through these 3 choke points, and reach the crucible's heart before the field expands fully. Lyra studies the map. "These choke points," she asks, "support pillars and old manufacturing floors?" "Yes," the tech priest says. "Pre-Imperial architecture. Weak, but still bearing load. Blowing them risks local collapse." "So we can't just blast through," she says. "We have to clear them by hand." Malkiel nods. "Good for us," he says. "Bad for them." Varro's tone sharpens. "Remember," he says, "the Butcher Prophet is not just a brute. He is an anti-psyker specialist. His armor is marked with hex runes. His axes are forged to drink psychic echoes. He has fought librarians and grey knights and lived." Obi-Wan listens closely. "He will try to draw Kenobi in," Varro continues. He will taunt. He will wound. Every time Kenobi uses his power inside the field, the Crucible will drink it and feed the Prophet's rage. The more he pushes, the stronger they get. Lyra stares at Obi-Wan. So your tricks make him stronger, she asks. That is not ideal. No, Obi-Wan says quietly. It is not. Malkiel looks at him. You must treat your power like poison in this zone, the Astartes says. Sip if you must. Never gulp. You will fight mostly with your body and your blade. Obi-Wan nods once. I understand, he says. Varro's voice softens just a little. This is not only a physical battle, he says. The Butcher Prophet will try to break your mind. He will say the things you fear most. He will offer you a simpler code. Blood and survival. No mercy. That path is quick. It is also damnation. Obi-Wan thinks of Anakin, of Mustafar, of flames. I have walked near that path before, he says. I will not walk it again. We shall see, Varro says. The bay lights switch to red. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot calls. Malkiel slams a fist against the bulkhead. Brothers, he says, voice booming. We face a foe who hates our kind of war. He thinks only slaughter has meaning. Show him that discipline and duty can cut deeper than any chain axe. The angels pound their chests in answer. Lyra checks her laser gun and frag grenades. She glances at Obi-Wan. You ready? She asks. He rolls his shoulders. As much as I can be, he says. He reaches out with the Force one more time, filling himself with what calm he can before stepping into the dead zone. The ramp slams down. Heat and dust rush in. The landing zone is a broken plaza deep in the hive's mid-levels. Tall columns rise into darkness above, holding up platforms and machinery. Flickering lumen strips cast sickly light. At the far end of the plaza, a faint shimmer marks the Crucible's edge. Obi-Wan feels it like a cold wind. As his boots hit the ground, the force around him shrinks, sounds dull, colors flatten. The subtle sense of life around him fades. He can still feel something, a faint thread, but it is thin, far, and weak. So this is what most people live with all the time, he thinks. A world not lit by constant connection. He steps toward the shimmer. Each pace inside makes it harder to reach out. Behind him, guardsmen fan out, taking cover behind rubble. Angels stride forward, bolters up. Contact, someone shouts. The first wave hits. World Eater berserkers charge from the shadows, red armor marked with the 8-pointed star and the rune of Khorne. Chains on their armor rattle. Butcher's nails grind in their skulls, feeding them rage. They roar as one. Skulls for the Skull Throne. They fire their pistols as they run. Bullets spark off ceramite. Laser bolts hiss past. Then they crash into the angels. The sound is like a car crash made of meat. Chainswords meet power swords. Bolter butts smash into helmets. Blood sprays. Armor dents. Obi-Wan moves to intercept a smaller pack, breaking toward Lyra's squad. He ignites his saber. The blade flares blue, but its hum is quieter here. He feels the Crucible tug at it, as if trying to drink the light. A berserker swings a chain axe at his head. Obi-Wan ducks and parries, sparks flying. His arms strain. The man is strong, even by clone standards. He sweeps the blade in a clean arc and takes the warrior's legs out at the knees. The berserker laughs as he falls, blood spraying. He tries to crawl forward, snarling. Another swings from the side. Obi-Wan sidesteps, blocks, counters. His movements are still precise, but they feel slower. The timing is off by a fraction. Without the full force to guide him, he has to lean on decades of muscle memory. He can do it, but he can feel the gap. Lyra's squad fires over his shoulder. Take the ones he knocks down, she shouts. Focus fire. They cut the crawling berserker's helmet open with las fire. A new wave rolls in. For every one they drop, another takes his place. Obi-Wan feels sweat trickle down his back. He is fighting as hard as he ever has, and they have barely stepped inside the crucible. They reach the first choke point after 10 minutes of hard fighting. It is a narrow service tunnel lined with pipes and old cables. Rust drips from the ceiling. The air is thick with oil and old smoke. Berserkers have piled debris into a crude barricade at the far end. Autogun fire rattles from behind it. Grenades arc out, bouncing off the floor. Cover, Lyra shouts. A blast throws 2 guardsmen back, armor shredded. They hit the ground and do not move. Frag out, another cries, lobbing a grenade in reply. The explosion rocks the barricade but does not break it. Malkil steps forward. Angels, he roars. With me. 3 Astartes move into the tunnel. Bolters bark, tearing chunks from the barricade. A plasma gun hisses, burning a glowing hole. Berserkers surge to meet them. The tunnel becomes a killing box. Obi-Wan starts toward it, then stops. He reaches for the Force to sense what is behind the barricade. Nothing. Just a blur, a muffled mass. He swallows. He cannot scout with his mind. He must trust his eyes. Kenobi, Malkil calls, voice echoing. Hold the flanks. They will try to come around. Obi-Wan nods and moves to one side, watching a side passage. Lyra joins him with 2 of her veterans. Feels wrong, doesn't it? She says between breaths. Like your ears have been stuffed with wax. Yes, he says. He hears more than he feels now. The clash in the tunnel, the screams, the whine of chainswords. He grips his saber tighter. A scrape comes from the darkness of the side passage. He turns. A small group of cultists and a crimson armored figure slip out, trying to flank the guardsmen. Obi-Wan steps forward. He does not leap. He does not push. He does not trust the Force to carry him. He runs like any man, boots pounding the floor. He meets the flankers halfway. The crimson figure is taller than a normal man, but smaller than a berserker. His armor is covered in bones and parchment strips. In one hand he holds a long, hooked blade. In the other, a device that looks like a censer, from which red smoke pours. He swings the censer toward Obi-Wan and laughs. Breath of the Crucible, he crows. The smoke hits Obi-Wan's face. His lungs seize. The little thread of force he still feels shudders and flickers. Pain spikes in his head. For a moment, his vision goes white. He staggers. The Crimson Warrior lunges. Obi-Wan's saber comes up too slow. The hooked blade slashes his forearm. It cuts deep. Blood sprays. His hand goes numb for a heartbeat. Lyra's las fire catches the Crimson Warrior in the side. He jerks, staggers, and turns toward her with a snarl. Obi-Wan forces his fingers to tighten on the saber. He steps in and cuts. The blade takes the warrior from shoulder to hip. The censer drops, cracking on the floor. Red smoke spills out in a thicker cloud. Obi-Wan kicks it away, coughing. His arm burns. The cut is more than simple steel. It feels empty, like something has been taken from that part of him. Obi-Wan, Lyra shouts. You okay? I will be, he says, voice rough. Keep your masks on. That smoke. He coughs again. He feels the force thread thin even more. The enemy has tools built to drain his kind. They clear the first choke point. 2 angels stand over a pile of dead berserkers, armor dented and splashed with gore. Malkil wipes his sword on a rag and nods. Move, he says. The field grows. They press on. At the second choke point, they face not just berserkers, but heavy weapon teams dug into alcoves. Autocannon fire rips through cover. One Astartes loses a pauldron and part of his arm. He fights on, teeth bared. Obi-Wan wants to reach out, to twist the barrels, to shove the gunners back with a thought. He tries. Nothing moves. He feels only a faint tug, and then a lash of pain in his skull. Across the way, a berserker howls louder, froth spraying. The crucible drinks his effort and feeds it to the enemy. He jerks his hand back as if burned. He fights normally instead. At the third choke point, they find the first real sign of the Butcher Prophet. A wall of brass has been bolted into the tunnel, covered in skulls and runes. In its center is a symbol painted in fresh blood, a stylized helm with horns and a screaming mouth. Under it, words are scrawled in crude Gothic. "Bring me the false light." Obi-Wan stares at it. He feels a faint pressure in his chest. "Seems he noticed you," Lyra says. "Yes," Obi-Wan says. Malkiel lifts his bolter. "Blow it," he says. Frag and crack grenades go out. The wall cracks, buckles, and falls. Beyond it lies the crucible's heart. It is not a simple machine. It is a room that has been made into a wound. They step into a wide chamber that was once a manufacturum dome. Old cranes hang from the ceiling. Rusted rails crisscross the floor. In the center, all of that has been carved away. A pit yawns there, filled with slow-moving blood. Chains rise out of it, holding bodies upside down above the surface. Some still twitch. Some hang limp. Above the pit floats a metal cage made of jagged blades and brass plates. Inside the cage, a psyker writhes, or what is left of one. Eyes burned out, mouth sewn shut. Limbs replaced with metal spikes that pierce the cage itself. The whole structure hums with a low grinding sound. From it, the crucible's null field spreads. At the far side of the pit stands a figure in armor the color of dried gore. He is taller than any berserker, almost as tall as an Astartes. His armor is old, etched with countless kill marks. Skulls hang from chains at his belt. His helm is crowned with horns that curve back like a beast's. In his hands are two axes. One is a chain axe, teeth still dripping with fresh blood. The other is a broad, almost plain blade, its edge dull-looking but carved with runes. Both hum faintly. His helm turns toward them. His voice booms out, amplified by hidden speakers. "So," he says, "you bring the false light to my door." Malkiel steps forward, sword and bolter ready. "Butcher Prophet Morchax," he calls, "champion of the broken claw. In the name of the Emperor of mankind, I, Brother Sergeant Malkiel of the Angels of Redemption, name you traitor and blasphemer. Today, your skull joins the pile." Morchax laughs. "Angels," he says, "I have killed many of your kind. You bleed well, but I did not come for you." His helm tilts. It fixes on Obi-Wan. "I came for him," he says. Obi-Wan walks to the edge of the pit, stopping a few meters from Malkiel. He feels the field at its worst here. The force is almost gone. Only a thin, painful thread remains, like a muscle pulled to tearing. "What do you want?" he asks. Morchax spreads his arms. "I want to see if your light is true," he says. "In this place, there is no trickery, no psyker's lies, only flesh, steel, and will. If your code means anything, it will hold here. If not, you die, and your power feeds the blood god." Lyra raises her laser gun. In a flash, a bolt of something invisible slaps it aside. She cries out and drops the gun, her hand smoking. Morchax's plain axe hums with a low, ugly tone. "No guns," he says. "No coward shots. This is a duel place now. Your weapons will not obey you here." Obi-Wan can feel it. The crucible bends reality in the chamber. Ranged weapons feel sluggish, as if the air thickens around their shots. Grenades would likely misfire or explode in hands. Morchax points both axes at Obi-Wan. "Come, false light," he says. "Show me your justice." Malkil growls. "You do not fight alone," the Astartes says. "I will stand at your side." "No," Morchax roars. "Only he, only the witch, or I start killing your astropaths now." He gestures to the cage. The psyker inside jerks. Energy crackles along the blades. The null field throbs. The astropath back in the bunker screams into the Vox. "Stop," she gasps. He twists the beacon. If he pours more power through, the choir will burn. He will kill us through him. Obi-Wan's fists clench. He looks at Malkil. "This is what he wants," Malkil says. "He wants your blood on his axes." "If I refuse, he kills your astropaths," Obi-Wan says. "And your beacon burns. Your fleets go blind." Malkil's jaw tightens. "Yes," he says. Lyra steps closer. "He's baiting you," she says. "You don't owe him a fair fight. We can find another way." Obi-Wan looks at the cage again, at the broken psyker inside, at the pit of blood, at the chain-hung bodies. He thinks of billions in the hive and across the sector, depending on a beacon they do not know exists. "I cannot let him use that man as a torch to burn so many," he says. He steps forward. "I will fight you," he calls. Morchax's laughter echoes like hammer blows. "Good," he says. "Bring your little blue stick. Let us see what it is worth without your ghost hand behind it." Obi-Wan steps down onto a narrow metal walkway that arcs over the pit. Morchax stands on the other side, waiting. The walkway is barely wide enough for two men to pass. One wrong move, and they will fall into the blood below. Obi-Wan draws his saber. The blue blade hums. It feels thinner here. Its light seems dimmer, swallowed by the crucible's field. He takes a stance. Morchax starts forward, axes at his sides. "You smell of another warp," the Butcher Prophet says. "A tame one. A warp where men pretend they are above blood, where they call their killing justice." Obi-Wan moves to meet him. His feet are light. His boots touch the metal with care. "You do not know my world," he says. "I know all worlds that try to cheat the throne," Morchax says. "In the end, they all crack. They all burn. Only the pure act of killing does not lie." Their blades meet. The impact jolts up Obi-Wan's arms. Morchax's strength is huge. Every swing feels like a falling tree. His chain axe howls as it grinds against the lightsaber blade. Obi-Wan steps aside, deflects, redirects. He cannot rely on small nudges of the Force to help his balance. He must trust his feet. He has trained for this his whole life. He can do it. For a while. Morchax presses forward, laughing. "You hold back," he says. "Even now, I can feel it. You are afraid of your own power." Obi-Wan ducks under a horizontal sweep, feeling the wind of it on his scalp. "I am careful with it," he says. "There is a difference." Morchax's plain axe slams down. Obi-Wan blocks. The metal hums. Pain stabs through Obi-Wan's arm where the earlier cut was. The axe's runes glow red. He feels something being pulled out of him through the contact. Not blood, not bone, something deeper. He jerks his saber free and leaps back. Morchax pauses, watching him. "This blade," the Butcher Prophet says, raising the plain axe, "is made from the bones of psykers who begged for mercy. It drinks the warp. It drinks fear. Every time it tastes your light, it makes me stronger." Obi-Wan tightens his grip. He can feel that truth. The axe ate a tiny piece of his presence just now. A small numbness blooms in his chest. "Then I will not meet it head-on," he says. Morchax roars and charges. Axes blur. Obi-Wan shifts to a more evasive form. He gives ground inch by inch, letting Morchax's strength carry him forward and off balance when he can. He cuts at joints and gaps, seeking weak points. He finds some. A slice along a knee plate, a stab that scratches a shoulder joint. Sparks fly. Morchax's laugh just gets louder. "You fight to preserve," he says. "You cut only what you must. Even now, when a hive hangs on this walkway, you weigh every strike." "Yes," Obi-Wan says, parrying another blow. "Because I know what it is like to lose a world." Morchax's chain axe slams into the rail. The walkway shudders. Metal groans. Obi-Wan sways, then steadies. Morchax tilts his head. "Your world," he says. "Did your mercy save it?" Obi-Wan's guard falters for a heartbeat. Images flash. Temple halls, clones raising rifles, young faces. "No," he says. Morchax's axes come in fast. Obi-Wan twists, but not fast enough. The chain axe catches his side. Armor cloth tears. Flesh opens. Heat and cold rush in at once. He gasps. He feels ribs crack again. Blood soaks his robe. He stumbles. Morchax follows with the plain axe. Obi-Wan brings his saber up. Their blades meet. The axe's runes flare. Pain explodes in his head. His vision whites out. He drops to one knee. From the far edge of the pit, Lyra screams his name. "Obi-Wan!" Guardsmen shift, desperate to help. Malkiel holds up a hand. "Stay back," he shouts. "The field is thickest there. You will only die in the way." On the walkway, Obi-Wan hears his own heart pounding in his ears. Morchax looms over him. "You cling to a broken code," the Butcher Prophet says. "You could have saved your world if you had embraced what war really is. If you had struck first, struck harder, not worried about bodies in the way." Obi-Wan tries to rise. His legs feel weak. He reaches for the Force. He touches it. The crucible sucks. It is like putting his hand into a drain. Energy pulls out of him instead of in. His lungs burn. His arms tremble. Across the pit, berserkers howl louder. Their axes swing faster. The crucible drinks his effort and pours it into them. Morchax laughs. "Good," he says. "Feed them. Feed me. Show me your balance." Obi-Wan lets go. He stops trying to pull. He breathes. He feels the thin thread fall quiet again. He's alone in his head. No guiding sense. No whisper of the galaxy's flow. Just his training, his pain, his choice. Morchax raises both axes. "I offer you a bargain," the Butcher Prophet says, voice lower now. "Give up the pretense. Give up the words. Admit that you love war, that you need it, that killing gives meaning to your light. Kneel, and I will ask Khorne to spare your hive. We will take only the warriors, only those who can fight." Obi-Wan looks up at him. Blood runs into one eye. "You ask me to trade billions of lives for my pride," he says. "You ask me to bless your slaughter and call it mercy." "I ask you to see the truth," Morchax says. "This galaxy is already hell. There is no peace, only war. Why not choose a god who at least does not lie about it?" Obi-Wan thinks of the Jedi Code. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. He knows now that those lines are not fully true. He has felt emotion, ignorance, passion, chaos, death, but they are goals, directions to point his heart. He also thinks of Varro's hard choices, of Hale's weariness, of Lyra's sharp anger, of Malkiel's duty. They live in a war that never ends. If he takes the Butcher Prophet's offer, he becomes one more weapon of that endless war, a sharper blade, nothing more. He sees Luke's face again in his mind, young, hopeful. He cannot show that boy a path paved with skulls and call it right. "No," Obi-Wan says. He pushes himself to his feet. "Think," Morchax snarls. You can't win this. Your light is choking. Your body is failing. Maybe, Obi-Wan says, but I will not hand you my soul to save my skin. Morchax's axes tremble. For the first time, his voice drops from roar to hiss. Then I will take it, he says. He lunges. Obi-Wan does not try to meet both axes head on. He sidesteps, as best he can, on the narrow walkway. Pain flares in his side. His ribs grind. He ducks under the chain axe and brings his saber up in a tight arc, aiming for the elbow of the plain axe arm. The blade bites, not enough to sever, enough to cut deeper into corrupted flesh. Morchax roars and backhands him with the chain axe's shaft. The blow catches Obi-Wan across the chest. He flies. For a moment, he is weightless above the pit. He flails, reaching. The force is thin, but he can still feel the metal rail on the far side. He grabs at that sense and yanks, not to move it, but to turn his body. He slams into the walkway face first instead of plunging into the blood. Agony spikes. His nose breaks. His vision swims. He clings to the metal, fingers sliding in his own blood. Morchax stalks toward him. You refuse my mercy, the Butcher Prophet says. So be it. Your death will feed a greater offering. He raises the plain axe. On the far side of the pit, Lyra moves. She cannot bear it. She grabs a frag grenade, pulls the pin, and throws. The crucible's field resists. The grenade arcs wrong. Instead of hitting Morchax, it bounces off the cage's lower blades and tumbles into the blood. Time slows. Obi-Wan sees it. He sees the grenade sink through the thick surface. He sees the chained bodies above. He sees the psyker in the cage spasm, sensing the coming blast. He has seconds. If the grenade detonates there, it could shatter the cage. The backlash might rip the field wide open, or pull it in. He cannot know, but he knows it will kill the psyker. He also knows it might rip the choir connected to him. He thinks of the astropath's voice, so calm in pain. Pain is part of the duty. He cannot let their death be this. He throws out a hand. He does not try to guide energy. He does not try to shape the blast. He only tries to move the grenade up, away from the blood, away from the cage. The crucible fights him. It is like trying to lift a boulder with a broken arm. His mind screams. The thin force thread stretches to snapping. The grenade rises, slow, too slow. It breaks the surface of the blood, dripping red. He has one heartbeat left. He pulls. The grenade shoots upward. It explodes in open air above the cage. The blast rocks the dome. Shrapnel shreds chains and meat, but misses the psyker's core and the crucible's main frame. The null field ripples. It does not break. Obi-Wan collapses onto the walkway. His brain feels like it has been sanded. Morchax staggers, shielding his helm from the blast. Then he turns back. If you had let it fall, he says, you might have killed the cage. You might have cracked my toy. You chose to save one half-dead tool and his choir. See how your mercy costs you again. He kicks Obi-Wan in the stomach. Something tears inside. Obi-Wan coughs blood. He cannot rise. His limbs refuse. He hears Lyra shouting his name again. He hears Malkil roaring an oath. He hears the angel slam into an invisible wall at the walkway's end. Unable to cross some boundary the crucible has set for any who are not part of the duel. He smells blood and oil and his own fear. He closes his eyes. He waits for the axe. Instead, he hears a different sound, a low, steady thrum. It cuts through the noise like a single clear note in a storm. In the darkness behind his eyes, he sees something. A man seated on a throne of gold. He is huge. Wires and tubes pierce his skin. His eyes burn like twin suns. Around him, billions of souls whisper in a constant silent prayer. Obi-Wan is not really there. He feels that at once. This is a vision, a touch carried by the astropathic link he just saved. He hears a voice. It is not loud. It is calm. "You are not mine," it says, "but you fight my war." Obi-Wan wants to say many things, that he never wanted this war, that he has seen enough already, that he is tired, but he cannot speak. The vision man lifts one hand. He holds a small, bright shape between two fingers. A sword. No, not a sword. A symbol of one. A line of light. He places it gently in Obi-Wan's chest. "Stand," the voice says, "and choose." The vision fades. The thrum echoes one last time. On the walkway, Obi-Wan's eyes snap open. He feels not healed, not restored. His ribs still grind, his muscles still scream. But there is a new steadiness in him. Not the wide, flowing calm of the Jedi. A narrow, hard focus. A single beam in a dark room. He rolls to one side as the plain axe comes down. The blade slams into the metal where his neck was a heartbeat before. Sparks fly. The walkway dents. Morchak snarls. Obi-Wan forces himself to his knees, then his feet. He raises his saber again. The blue blade flickers, then steadies. Morchak stares. "What are you?" he growls. "Who whispers in your head?" Obi-Wan breathes. "The same one that built the choir you are trying to kill," he says. "The one these people call Emperor." Morchak laughs, but there is a crack in it. "The corpse god," he says. "He is a husk on an iron throne. He does not speak." "He just did," Obi-Wan says. For a moment, Morchak looks almost uncertain. Then the butcher's nails grind in his skull. He roars and charges again. This time, Obi-Wan does not try to block every blow. He cannot match Morchak's raw strength. He cannot outlast him. But he can place his steps. He can choose his cuts. He lets the Force's thin thread touch only one thing, his own center of balance. He does not push. He does not pull. He just feels where his feet must go to not fall. He becomes small, a narrow target, a moving point. Morchak's axes crash down and to the sides, always just missing. Obi-Wan's saber darts in and out. He stops aiming for armor plates. He starts cutting symbols. He slices through a hanging chain of skulls, severing it so it crashes to the floor. He cuts along the edge of a rune carved into a pauldron. He nicks a mark on the plain axe's haft. Each cut is small. Each one stings. Morchak howls. "You are picking at scratches," he snarls. "You cannot carve my faith out of this armor." "Maybe not," Obi-Wan says, "but I can make it harder for it to drink me." He feints low, then flicks high, taking a chunk out of a rune near the axe's head. The next time the plain blade meets his saber, the pull is a little weaker. Only a little, but enough. Morchak feels it. He swings harder, faster, trying to make up for it. The walkway shudders, supports groan. Blood slaps against the pit walls as waves lap. Lyra watches, heart in her throat. "This is insane," she whispers. "Faith often looks that way," Malkiel says quietly. He does not take his eyes off the duel. He knows he may have to act in the next instant, to shoot Obi-Wan if the warp twists him, to charge, even if the field tries to stop him. He waits. Obi-Wan's strength is fading. His arms feel like lead. Every breath hurts, but he keeps moving. Morchak overextends on a wild swing. Obi-Wan steps inside the arc and slashes across the champion's side. The blade does not cut deep, but it bites. Warp-tainted blood spills. It sizzles on the metal. Morchak staggers. He responds with a backhand from the chain axe. Obi-Wan cannot dodge fully this time. The blow catches him across the shoulder. Bone cracks. He spins. His saber flies from his hand. It tumbles, deactivating, and lands near the edge of the walkway, skidding toward the pit. Obi-Wan falls to one knee again. His right arm hangs useless. Morchax limps forward, bleeding but still strong. "This is the end," he says. "You chose your path. You chose your weakness. And now, your light goes out." He raises both axes. Obi-Wan looks at his empty hands. He feels for the Force. It is barely there. He could try to pull the saber back with it. He knows what that would do. Every time he has used the Force here, it has fed the Crucible and the Berserkers. If he pulls hard now, the field will drink deep. It might flare. It might burn the choir. He hears the astropath's voice in his mind again. Pain is part of the duty. He can choose whose pain, his own, or thousands of minds tied to the beacon. He lets the saber lie. He curls his good hand into a fist. He thinks of all his masters, all his students, all the soldiers he led. He thinks of how they died. He thinks of what he wants Luke to see, far away under twin suns. Not a broken Jedi who traded lives for a few more swings. A man who kept his line, even if he fell. He looks up at Morchax. "So be it," he says. He opens his arms. He exposes his chest. If the champion kills him, let it be like this. Not in a fury, not in a grasping for power, but in acceptance. Morchax hesitates for a fraction of a second. This is not how his foes usually face him. Then the nails roar. He brings the axes down. Something large slams into him from the side. and Astarte's body hits Morchax like a truck. Malkil has moved. He cannot cross the invisible line the Crucible set for non-duelists. But lines like that are made of rules, and sometimes rules can be bent. He threw something ahead of him, his own helm. The moment the helmet crossed the unseen barrier, the field flickered to notice it, treating it as a fighter of the duel. For a half-heartbeat, the line shifted. Malkil stepped through in that tiny gap. Now he smashes into Morchax, shoulder first. Axes scythe aside. One grazes Obi-Wan's chest, carving a shallow but fiery line. The other bites into the walkway instead of his skull. Metal shears. Half the walkway collapses. Malkil and Morchax tumble toward the pit. Obi-Wan grabs the remaining rail with his good hand. His legs dangle in empty air. Blood slaps his boots. Below, Malkil lands hard on a crumpled beam jutting from the pit wall. His armor dents. He snarls. Morchax lands on another beam lower down. He scrabbles for purchase, axes clanging. He is now lower, closer to the blood. The Crucible's hum deepens. The caged psyker writhes. Lyra screams, "Rope, get them a line." Guardsmen throw cables and hooks. One lands near Obi-Wan. He lets go of the rail with his useless arm and catches the line with his good hand. Pain flares. He bites back a cry. "Pull!" Lyra shouts. They haul. He swings toward the edge of the remaining walkway. He reaches with his bad arm. Something pops. He grabs metal. They drag him up inch by inch. Below, Malkil and Morchax fight on narrow beams above the blood. Axes and sword clash. The Crucible pulls at them. Every strike sucks more energy from the psyker in the cage. Every roar stirs the field. Obi-Wan rolls onto the walkway, gasping. He looks down. He sees the plane axe's runes glowing brighter. He sees the blood in the pit start to bubble. He feels, even through the dead field, that something big is about to happen. If the Crucible drinks much more, it may erupt, not outward, upward, through the choir, through the beacon, through the warp. "All because of me," he whispers. He made the first cut on the sorcerer's knot. He pulled the grenade. He drew the Butcher Prophet's attention. His presence here is a complicated wound. He could hate himself for it. Instead, he looks for what he can still do. His saber lies at the broken edge. He cannot pull it with the Force. He can crawl. He drags himself inch by inch. Every movement hurts. Lyra drops to her knees beside him. "What are you doing?" she demands. "I need my weapon," he says. "You can barely stand," she says. He keeps moving. She curses. "Fine," she says. "I'll get it." She crawls ahead, reaches out and grabs the hilt before it can slide into the pit. She shoves it back into his hand. "Happy?" she snaps. "Not yet," he says. He pushes himself up to one knee. Below, Malkiel takes a hit. The chain axe chews a furrow across his chest plate. Ceramite crumbles. Blood seeps. He stabs back, sword biting into Morchax's thigh. The Butcher Prophet roars and kicks. The beam under them shakes. Obi-Wan knows he cannot jump down to join them. His body will not survive the drop and the fight, but he can aim once. He can use his power one more time. Not to slam or pull or crush, to nudge. A tiny, precise push. He breathes. He lets the thin thread of force touch the plain axe. Just the axe. He waits until Morchax raises it to block a blow. Then he gives it the smallest twist. The rune-carved blade shifts a hand's breadth. Malkiel's sword, meant to strike the shoulder, drives into the gap at the ribs instead. It sinks deep. Morchax howls. The nails scream. He swings the chain axe wildly. It catches the beam. Metal snaps. Both warrior and champion fall into the pit. Blood erupts in a red fountain. The crucible shrieks. The field flares. For a moment, everyone in the chamber feels like their skulls are being squeezed. Psychers across the hive cry out. The astropath in the bunker convulses. Then the crucible's hum breaks. The caged psyker goes limp. The null field's edge shudders and pulls inward. It does not vanish, but it shrinks, like a wound closing a little. The blood in the pit boils, then settles. Chunks of broken armor and meat float to the surface. An armored hand, still gripping the plain axe, twitches once and sinks. There is no sign of Malkiel. Obi-Wan stares. "Malkiel," Lyra whispers. No answer. She grips the broken rail until her knuckles go white. Obi-Wan feels nothing from the pit. No mind, no clear presence. The field still dampens everything. But he tells himself that if Morchax had lived, the nails would still be screaming. The field would still be fed by his rage. It is quieter now. Not safe, but quieter. "Sergeant?" A distant angel calls from the far side. Silence answers. Obi-Wan closes his eyes. "I am sorry," he whispers. He knows Malkiel chose this. He knew the risk when he jumped. But Obi-Wan's tiny push chose the final line. If he had misjudged, the blade might have missed, and the crucible might have drunk him instead. Trade after trade, choice after choice, no clean ones. He forces himself to his feet and looks at the cage. The psyker inside hangs limp. "Can we get him out?" Lyra asks. The tech priest's voice crackles over Vox. "Negative," he says. "Structural integrity is compromised. Manual extraction risks re-energizing crucible core. Current field collapse rate, stable. Recommended action, leave as is." "We just leave him there," she snaps. "Yes," the tech priest says. "He is dead. His utility is complete." Obi-Wan's jaw tightens. He knows they are right, in a cold way. He also knows that leaving a man in a cage of blades feels wrong. He looks at the saber in his hand. He could jump down and cut the cage. He could try. He would likely die. He thinks of the Emperor's voice. Stand and choose. He has chosen enough for one day. He nods once, slowly. "We will honor him another way," he says. Lyra swallows hard. "Fine," she mutters. "Let's get the living out." They pull back. As they leave the chamber, the crucible's heart flickers behind them, weaker than before, but not gone. The Butcher Prophet is dead, but his device still scars the hive, and so does his axe. Back in the bunker, the air feels different. The astropath slumps in her chair, breathing in ragged gasps. The pressure eased, she whispers. The beacon lives. The choir is broken but not burned. Hale leans on the table, exhausted. Varro stands beside him, coat stained with new grime. His eyes are on Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan sits again on the same crate. His chest is bandaged. His shoulder is in a sling. His face is pale. The Medici wanted him in a proper bed. Varro wanted questions answered first. Hale clears his throat. "You did it," he says. "The Butcher Prophet is dead. The Crucible is weakening. Our astropaths still sing, if hoarsely. The Angel's strike cruiser reports that the Chaos Fleet's formation is fraying even further. You have bought us a chance to hit back." Obi-Wan nods faintly. Lyra stands near him. She has a new scar along her jaw from shrapnel. Her eyes are red from smoke and unshed tears. "Malkil?" Hale asks. "Gone," Lyra says. "He took the Prophet into the pit. We saw his body fall." The room bows its head, even Varro. "His name will be entered in the Book of Angels," one of the other Astartes says over Vox. "His sacrifice will be remembered." Obi-Wan stares at his own hands. He flexes the fingers of his good hand. They feel off. When he closes his eyes, he can still feel the thin force thread. But there is something else near it now. A small, hot spot. A bruise of red. It sits near his heart like a coal. When he thinks of the duel, it flares. There is a whisper in it. Just a feeling. The feeling of swinging an axe with all your strength and not caring what is in the way. He opens his eyes quickly. Varro is watching him. "During the duel," the Inquisitor says, "our instruments registered spikes in the Crucible's field. Each time, your bio-reading shook. Your aura." He glances at the astropath. "Changed. That device drank something from you." Obi-Wan nods. "The axe," he says. "It was made to drink psychers. It bit me more than once." "Can you feel it?" Varro asks. Obi-Wan hesitates. "Yes," he says. "Like a mark. A scar in the Force. It is quiet now, but it is there." The astropath shivers. "I can see it," she whispers. "A small brand. Not full worship. Not a chain, but a hook. If you walk certain paths, it will sink deeper." Lyra's hand tightens on the back of Obi-Wan's crate. "Can we cut it out?" she demands. "Purge it. Something." The tech priest clicks. "Options: exsanguination, limb removal, cranial excision," he says. "Probability of success: low. Probability of subject death: high." "Not helpful," Lyra snaps. Varro taps his chin. "There is another option," he says slowly. "The only man in existence who can look at that mark and know exactly what it means. The only one whose will might burn it out without killing the host." Hale looks at him, suddenly understanding. "The Emperor," he says. Varro nods. "Yes," he says. "The Master of Mankind, the Golden Throne, the one who just spoke through our astropath, if we believe her account and Kenobi's." The astropath bows her head. "I felt him," she says, voice hushed. For the first time so clearly, his attention brushed the beacon. It was heavy, bright. If he chooses to look at this stranger, he will see more than we can. Obi-Wan feels a strange mix of fear and curiosity. He has stood before powerful beings, Sith Lords, Separatist leaders, Force spirits, an immortal man bound to a throne, guiding an empire with his mind, is a different scale altogether. Varro's gaze sharpens. "Commanders," he says to Hale and the Astartes captains on the Vox, "this is where war and doctrine meet. We have an extragalactic psyker who has shaped warp events twice in ways we do not fully understand. He now carries a mark that could, under the right pressure, turn him into a weapon of the blood god. We cannot leave him here. Hale nods slowly. I agree, he says. If he turns, he could take this hive with him. Or this world. Or worse. Lyra bristles. He saved us, she says. Twice. And Malkiel. And the choir. You talk about him like a bomb, not a person. Varro does not flinch. He's both, he says. So are you, Captain. So am I. We are all bombs in this age. Some are just bigger than others. He looks back at Obi-Wan. The Angel's strike cruiser can carry you off-world, he says. From there, with the right clearances, you could be taken toward Terra, or at least to a segmentum conclave where lords of the Inquisition decide your fate. But after what just happened, I suspect higher eyes will be interested. He smiles thinly. The Emperor may wish to see his new toy, he says. Obi-Wan frowns. I am not a toy, he says quietly. Varro inclines his head. Poor choice of word, he says. He may wish to see his new problem, and perhaps his new asset. Lyra looks at Obi-Wan. If you go, she says, you leave us in the middle of a war. Yes, he says, but if I stay, I draw more like Morchax, and this mark grows. I can feel it. I stepped into a current I do not understand. I must see where it leads. Hale sighs. My world is not safe, he says. But it is safer than it was. With the Butcher Prophet dead and the Crucible weakening, the Angel's cruiser can commit to hitting the fleet. We have a chance. Small, but real. He looks at Obi-Wan. I will not chain you, he says. You came here by your own choice. You have fought for us. You have bled for us. You must choose again. Stay here in the mud and noise with us, or go up there into the heart of this Imperium's fire to let its highest will judge you. Obi-Wan looks at his hands again. He feels the coal near his heart. He remembers the Emperor's voice. Stand and choose. If I stay, he says slowly, I may save some here. I may also fall in some small corner and take a few more with me. If I go, I face a weight greater than any I have known. I put myself in the path of your Emperor's gaze. He thinks of Yoda. Into exile I must go, the old master had said. Failed I have. This is not exile. This is walking into judgment. It is closer to what the Jedi were meant to do. Stand before power, not above it. He looks up. I will go, he says. Lyra looks like she wants to argue. Then she sees his eyes. She nods slowly. Fine, she says. Go see your golden corpse. Just don't let him break you more than these people already have. Varro snorts. Worry less about him, he says, and more about the warp. He taps the table. In light of this, he says, I, Inquisitor Varro Kieran, formally request that Obi-Wan Kenobi be placed under inquisitorial escort and transported aboard the Angels of Redemption strike cruiser to the nearest stable route toward Terra. His status, provisional asset, high risk, requiring constant watch. The Astartes captain on the Vox considers. The chapter owes him a debt, the armored voice says at last. He stood beside our brother in battle. For that, we will carry him. But know this, Witch, if he turns on our ship, we will kill him. That seems to be everyone's plan, Obi-Wan says dryly. For the first time, Lyra smiles again, a small, tired curve. Hale nods. Then it is settled, he says. We hold the hive. You go to the throne. The astropath bows her head. I will open a path, she says. The beacon is hurt, but it still shines. The warp will be rough. The path will be steep. Obi-Wan feels a flicker of fear. He has ridden hyperlanes and ships through wild storms. He has never ridden a vessel through a dimension like this warp, filled with gods of blood and hunger. And he carries a small mark from one of them. He stands carefully. I will need to meditate before we go, he says. To brace what I can. Varro nods. Do so under guard, he says. If your eyes start glowing red, I will put a bolt in your skull. Obi-Wan gives him a dry look. If my eyes start glowing red, he says, I hope you do more than that. Lyra reaches out, then stops herself. For a moment, she looks like she wants to hug him. Instead, she clasps at his good shoulder. Try not to get killed by holy bureaucracy, she says. I will do my best, he says. He turns toward the exit. As he walks out of the bunker, he hears the astropath whisper behind him. The strike cruiser Ascendant Blade hangs in orbit like a knife. It is huge, all angles and guns, armor plates scarred by old battles, gun decks that could erase cities. Its prow bears the winged sword of the Angels of Redemption. Obi-Wan watches it grow in the view screen of the shuttle. The little craft shudders as it rises from Heliandria's thin upper air. Fire licks at the hull. Below, Hive Eidolon is a grey lump, still smoking from the recent fights. Lyra sits across from him, helmet in her lap. Doesn't feel right, she says softly. Sending you away while we're still digging bodies out of the rubble. You have enough to worry about down there, he says. If I stay, I might draw worse things to you. This way, maybe I can stop them further up the chain. She snorts. Always up the chain, she says. Always someone bigger holding the knife. Varro is strapped in near the ramp, coat still dusty. 2 stormtroopers sit beside him, bolters ready even here. Up the chain is where this must go, the Inquisitor says. You have made yourself the Golden Throne's concern. Best to face that now, while you still have some say. Obi-Wan smiles thinly. Some say, he repeats. We will see. The shuttle docks with a deep clang. Maglocks thud into place. The ramp hisses open, letting in cold, recycled air that smells of oil and incense. A squad of angels waits. They are giants even in the cramped bay. Their armor is fresh scrubbed, but the dents and scars show through the paint. At their head stands a chaplain in black armor trimmed with bone, his helmet shaped like a skull. He removes it as they approach. His face is lined and stern. His eyes are dark and sharp. I am Chaplain Severian, he says, keeper of the word for the Third Company. Brother Sergeant Malkiel's line reports your deeds. Obi-Wan Kenobi. For his sake, and for the sake of the war, you are welcome aboard our blade. Obi-Wan bows his head. Thank you, he says. I am sorry for his loss. Severian's jaw tightens. He did not lose, the chaplain says. He spent. A coin given to the Emperor at a fair price. He studies Obi-Wan for a long moment. You carry a mark, he says softly. I can feel it, even through my armor's wards. A stink of the blood god. Yet you also carry another touch, a small echo of the throne. Obi-Wan nods. I know, he says. We will speak of this, Severian says, in the chapel, after the Medicae finish what they can with you. He turns. Come. The ship moves soon. The warp does not wait for slow feet. The Medicae Bay is a long hall lined with cots and iron coffins. Servitors on tracks slide from bed to bed, injecting chem lines and applying steel clamps. Chirurgeons in red-trimmed robes move between them, chanting half prayers, half orders. Obi-Wan lies on one of the cots while auto arms scan him. A servo skull with green lenses hovers over his chest. It projects a ghostly image of his ribs, showing fine fractures and hairline cracks. Bone knitting at acceptable rate, one Medicae says. Shoulder joint torn but repairable. Warp burn readings Unusual, not standard human pattern. Not from here, another replies. Inquisitor's problem. Varro stands at the foot of the bed, arms folded. You will live, he says. That is inconvenient for my paperwork. It is easier to write reports on dead anomalies. Obi-Wan smiles faintly. I'll try to make your life harder then, he says. Varro's eyes narrow in a brief, almost amused way. You already have, he says. Tell me truthfully, Jedi. If you had known what this galaxy was like, would you still have opened that crack in your own? Obi-Wan thinks. He thinks of Heliandria's burning walls, of the crucible, of Malkiel's fall, of the small coal in his own chest. He also thinks of the lives saved on the wall, the choir still singing, the chance now to speak to the being on the throne. Yes, he says, I would still have come. I could not ignore such pain. Varro nods slowly. That is your strength, he says. It is also what our enemies will always use against you. You feel too much. And you feel too little, Obi-Wan asks. Varro looks at him for a long moment. I feel enough, he says. I just do, not let it stop my hand. He glances at the Medica readouts. That brand worries me, he says. I have seen lesser marks grow when men think they are safe. Remember this, terror is not an end. It is only another choice. He turns and walks out, coat swirling. The servo skull clicks. Repairs complete, the Medici says. Recommend rest. Ship translation into warp in 3 hours. Psycho-class patients should be sedated. Obi-Wan pushes himself up. I will not be sedated, he says. Not while you are tearing the veil between realities. The Medici opens his mouth, then sees the inquisitorial seal on Obi-Wan's file. He closes it again. As you wish, he mutters. Obi-Wan swings his legs off the cot. His ribs ache. His shoulder burns under fresh synth skin. His side is wrapped tight. The coal near his heart remains. He leaves the Medici bay. The ship's chapel is a long, high hall carved into the central spine. Bronze statues of armored warriors line the walls, each bearing a different weapon. Banners hang from the ceiling, heavy with dust and dried blood. At the far end stands a great icon. The Emperor, carved in gold and black stone, seated on a stylized throne. His sword is point down, his hand resting on its pommel. In front of the icon, candles burn in tight rows. Their small flames flicker in the recycled air. Chaplain Severian kneels there in prayer. His crozius, a mace topped with a winged skull, lies across his lap. Obi-Wan steps quietly into the hall. He feels the Force here in a strange way. The warp null of the crucible is gone. His connection is clearer. But the Emperor's presence hums under it, like a low, constant chord. He bows his head for a moment, not to the statue, but out of simple respect. Severian opens his eyes. You walk softly for a psyker, the chaplain says. Most of your kind either slink or stomp. I am trying to be polite, Obi-Wan says. This is your sacred place. Severian stands. In this hall, we speak plain, he says. Sit. He gestures to a bench. Obi-Wan sits. Severian remains standing, looking up at the icon. You have a code, the chaplain says. I can see it in how you move, in how you choose your strikes, in how you talk to that Inquisitor Gallo bird. A code, yes, Obi-Wan says. It has changed over time, but its core is simple. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Use power only when you must, never for your own gain. Severian nods. A fair code, he says, for a young age, for a cleaner war than this. He gestures at the walls. In our creed, we also protect, he says, but we name our enemy differently. We say, our foe is not only the thing with a gun across from us, It is also the rot inside us, the whisper in the ear, the fear that says, let someone else stand. He looks down at Obi-Wan. You saved 1 million souls in the Underhive from a blind purge, he says. You also risked 1 million more if corruption runs too deep. That is a strain your code may not have carried before. Obi-Wan nods. It is hard, he says. In my war, we also faced choices like that. We did not always make the right ones. Yet you cling to mercy, Severian says, even when it hurts, even when it costs lives. Yes, Obi-Wan says. Severian tilts his head. Why? He asks. Because if we give it up completely, Obi-Wan says slowly, then we are only another kind of beast. Power needs a line it will not cross, or it eats everything. Severian looks back at the icon. The Emperor killed his own sons when they turned traitor, he says. He burned worlds that had fallen too deep. He ordered us to show no mercy to some foes, ever. Yet he also built an Imperium to protect billions of weak, foolish, sinful humans. Do you call him beast or guardian? Both, Obi-Wan says quietly. On different days, in different ways. Severian's lips twitch. Careful, he says. That is close to heresy in some halls. In some halls, breathing is close to heresy, Obi-Wan says. The chaplain barks a short laugh. True, he says. His face hardens again. Listen, he says. Your flaw is clear to me. Not because it is evil, but because it is obvious. You cannot stand to fail. You carry every lost life like a stone in your cloak. It makes you careful. It also tempts you to take more weight than any one man can carry. That is how chaos gets in. It offers you a way to stop feeling guilty. Kill more sooner. Then no one can say you did too little. Obi-Wan looks down at his hands. He thinks of Morchax's offer, of trading the hive for only warriors. I know, he says. Severian taps his chest. And now you have a mark here that will itch every time you feel that pull, the chaplain says. A little voice that says, one hard choice now, and you could save so many later. Take the axe, swing first. He leans on the bench. So here is my warning, he says. On this ship, under my watch, you will not pray to that voice. You will not let it set your rules. When the Emperor judges you, he will look not only at what you did, but why. If you kill to ease your shame, that mark will eat you. Obi-Wan nods. I understand, he says. What do you suggest I do instead? Carry the shame and never act? Severian shakes his head. No, he says. Act. Kill when you must. But do it with your eyes open. Not to erase the past. Not to feel strong. To hold this species line alive for one more day. That is all. He straightens. In this chapel, I do not need you to agree with every creed, he says. But I will ask you one thing. Speak your own motto aloud, in plain words, so that when the warp whispers a different one, you will hear the difference. Obi-Wan thinks. At last, he says, protect the weak, stop the cruel, never enjoy the killing. Severian nods. A simple line, he says. Good. Hold to it. We will see if it holds you. He lifts his Crozius and taps the deck twice. Now go, he says. Meditate. The warp will test you soon. Obi-Wan rises. He looks up at the statue. For what it is worth, he says softly. Thank you for speaking to me down there. The golden face of the icon does not move, but the low hum below the ship's sounds seems, for a moment, to grow a little stronger. Hours later, the ascendant blade drops into the warp. Obi-Wan feels it even through the ship's thick hull. Reality stretches. The stars outside the viewport smear into long crawling lines. Then they vanish, replaced by a swirling, bruised sky of impossible colors. He stands at a small observation slit, watching. The immaterium, Severian says, appearing beside him. The warp, probably not like the clean little hyperlanes you grew up with. Obi-Wan shakes his head. No, he says. This feels wrong, like a nightmare made into a sea. Severian nods. That is close enough, he says. Our Geller field keeps the worst things from getting in, usually. But the path to terror is crowded. 1,000,000 prayers push through this sea every day. It is never quiet. Obi-Wan closes his eyes. He can feel them now. Faint cries, pleas, songs. Some words he understands, some he does not. All tied in some way to the image of the man on the throne. The coal near his heart warms. The mark twitches. He hears a different sound under the prayers. A drum. Slow, heavy. Boom, boom, boom. His hand curls into a fist without meaning to. He opens his eyes again. I need to be alone, he says. Severian studies him. Not fully alone, he says. I will set a servitor outside your door. If you start screaming hymns to the blood god, it will alert me. Obi-Wan huffs a small laugh. I will try to avoid that, he says. He walks back to the small cell they have given him. He sits on the floor, folds his legs, and closes his eyes. He reaches for the Force. It is there, thin but steady. He breathes. The ship groans around him as it sails through storm. Days pass. In the Medici Bay, wounded guardsmen and marines heal in their own ways. In the gun decks, crews run drills to keep their hands ready. In the chapels, candles burn. Obi-Wan spends most of his time in his cell, in the chapel, or in a small training hall the angels have opened to him. He practices with his saber, more slowly than he would like, mindful of his ribs and shoulder. Without full force support, his style is more like a dance of careful steps and focused cuts. Sometimes Severian joins him. The chaplain's Crozius is heavy and brutal, but his footwork is sharp. He talks as they spar. See how you still pull your strikes, he says. Even against armor, you are always thinking of what is behind your target. Sometimes behind them is a child, Obi-Wan says, blocking a heavy blow. I cannot unlearn that. Good, Severian says. Just remember, sometimes behind them is a power line that feeds half a hive. If you do not cut hard enough, more die. They argue in calm voices, between strikes, about cost and duty, about whether it is better to be too hard and regret later, or too soft and lose worlds. Neither convinces the other, but they both listen. Between training sessions, Obi-Wan feels the coal. It pulses sometimes when he thinks of Mustafar, of clones firing, of children dead. It wants him to think, if you had only struck harder earlier, you could have saved them. He answers it with Severian's words. You kill to hold the line, he whispers, not to erase your shame. The coal does not vanish, but it does not grow. In the ship's librarium, a hooded Astartes librarian studies Auspex traces. Blue light washes over his pale face. Inquisitor, he says as Varro enters. The sidetracks we are pulling from your guest are strange. Varro steps closer. How so? He asks. The librarian points to a set of moving lines. This is his baseline, he says. Warp signature, human, but skewed, like it grew in a different pattern. His power flows in a gentler curve than our Psyker's paths. Less noise, fewer spikes. Very ordered. And the brand? Varro asks. The librarian taps a red blotch on the chart. This is where the axe bit him, he says. Khorne's touch. It sits in his soul like a knot. It is not active now, but it responds when he feels certain things. Anger at himself, anger at failure, hunger for a simpler battle. Varro nods. And if that knot is pulled, he asks. The librarian's mouth tightens. Then his ordered power might flip, he says, shaped into a very clean, very efficient hatred, a perfect duelist of the blood god. He would still care about saving people, but his method would be slaughter. Varro drums his fingers on the edge of the console. The throne must see this, he says, sooner rather than later. The librarian glances at the warp chart. Our path is not smooth, he says. There is a storm ahead, a region of stirred currents. Something snarls at us. Varro looks. In the map of the warp around their route, a swirling knot of darker color turns. Can we go around it? He asks. Not without adding weeks, the librarian says. And every extra day in the warp is a danger. The storm is moving too. It seems to be noticing us. Varro's jaw tightens. Of course it is, he mutters. Nothing in this age is simple. He straightens. Tell the captain to maintain course, he says. We will go through. The Geller field will hold. He hopes. The librarian nods. As the Inquisition commands, he says. The storm hits on the 5th day. The ship shudders. Lights flicker. Crewmen grab rails. Servitors lock into walls. Alarms howl in the distance as some system somewhere overloads and then resets. Obi-Wan feels it as a howl in his bones. The warp outside rises up, angry at this intrusion. The Geller field hums louder, a shell of reality around the ship. Something claws at it. He opens his eyes in his cell. The air feels heavy. He stands and leaves, ignoring the shrill warning from the servitor outside. In the corridor, men hurry, but not in panic. They know these storms. Severian meets him halfway to the chapel. Back, the chaplain barks. To your cell. What is happening? Obi-Wan asks, steady. The warp is unhappy, Severian says. A storm, or a god's passing attention. You do not want to be awake when the sea rises this high. I already am, Obi-Wan says. And I feel something else. Not just random hate. Focus. Severian's gaze sharpens. The librarian storm, he mutters. Fine. Walk with me. If anything tears through, I'd rather see it with my own eyes. They head for the Geller shrine. Every Imperial ship has one. A chamber near the field projectors where priests and techs chant over the humming machines that keep reality in. The Ascendant Blade's shrine is a low, round room with a huge, humming engine in the center. Cables, wards, and purity seals cover it. Tech adepts circle it, muttering machine prayers. As Obi-Wan and Severian enter, the humming stutters. The lights dim. A crack appears in the air above the engine. At first, it is a thin line, like a scratch. Then it widens. Warp light bleeds in. It is not the wild chaos of outside. It is a focused hole. Through it steps a figure. He wears robes like a Jedi, but darker. His beard is trimmed sharper. His eyes are hard. At his belt hangs a lightsaber. On his shoulder, an inquisitorial eye burns. The tech priests freeze. Severian lifts his crozius. Obi-Wan's hand goes to his own saber, then stops. He knows that face. His own. The newcomer smiles. Always so slow to draw, old man, the mirror Obi-Wan says. Even here. His voice is Obi-Wan's, but with a different weight. Severian snarls. Demon, he says. Name yourself and be unmade. The mirror ignores him. He steps down onto the deck, boots leaving no mark. He looks around with mild interest. Astarte's ship, he says. Geller field humming like a tired beast. Inquisitors stink in the air. Feels like home. Obi-Wan swallows. What are you? He asks. Possibility, the mirror says. A line you could walk, a path you already started. He touches the inquisitorial seal on his shoulder. Lord Inquisitor Kenobi, he says. Witchbane, heretic slayer, the man who learned that mercy kills more people than it saves. Severian snorts. Old trick, the chaplain says. Show a man his worst self and hope he believes it. The mirror tilts his head. Worst, he asks. Is it so bad to stop whole wars before they start? To burn cults before the first ritual? To kill one city to save 10 worlds? He looks at Obi-Wan. You already stepped there, once, he says. When you cut that knot in the sorcerer's chest, when you redirected that grenade, you chose who lived and who died. You just still pretend there was another way. Obi-Wan breathes slowly. The butcher prophet made a similar offer, he says. He shouted, You speak. We are not the same, the mirror says. He kills for blood. I kill for order, for peace. The peace you wanted and failed to get in your galaxy. He steps closer. When your council hesitated, when the Senate talked and talked, what did you do? He asks. You waited, you argued, you trusted a rotten structure. If you had cut deeper sooner, you could have stopped the fall. Obi-Wan's jaw clenches. He remembers nights in war rooms, seeing Palpatine's hand in everything too late. Yes, he says softly. I failed. The mirror smiles. And now you are here, he says, in a galaxy that already knows it is a slaughterhouse. No illusions, no gentle words. You could do so much more good here if you would just stop flinching. The coal near Obi-Wan's heart flares. It likes these words. It feels them as fuel. Severian steps between them. His Crozius crackles. Begone, he says. You smell of the warp. You are not a vision from the throne. The mirror flicks his fingers. Severian's Crozius dims. The chaplain grunts, dropping to one knee as if a great weight has been put on his shoulders. No, angel, the mirror says. Your faith guards you against demons of lies. I am a demon of truth, of what could be. Your wards have no sigil for me. He looks back at Obi-Wan. You feel the brand, he says. You know it. Khorne wants you to swing like a beast. I offer you something different. Use that hunger, but chain it. Aim it. Become the Emperor's clean knife. No more half measures. No more hope that everyone can be saved. Obi-Wan watches him. The ship shakes around them. Outside, the warp storm claws at the Geller field. Inside, this thing claws at his soul. What happens? Obi-Wan asks slowly. To my code, if I take your offer? The mirror shrugs. Keep it, he says. Just trim it. Change never enjoy the killing to never kill without cause. Expand what counts as cause. A child in a hive whose father whispers to demons. Risk. A world that once fell but swears it is clean now. Risk. And better to cut them out early than watch another galaxy burn. You would burn billions on suspicion, Obi-Wan says. On pattern, the mirror corrects. On data, on experience. You have seen what happens when you trust too much. Learn. Obi-Wan feels the coal burning hotter. It wants this. It wants simple lines. He looks at Severian struggling to stand under the mirror's weight. He looks at the tech priests, frozen in fear. He looks back at himself. Tell me this, Obi-Wan says. In your path, after 1,000 purges, after you kill every possible risk, is there peace? Do children laugh? Do people trust each other? The mirror's smile thins. There is order, he says. There is a galaxy that still exists. That is more than nothing. That is not enough, Obi-Wan says gently. The mirror's eyes narrow. You still chase hope, he says. You still think you can hold everything in the middle. That is the stance that broke your old orders back. He lifts his hand. The coal in Obi-Wan's chest flares bright red. Pain lances through him. He staggers. Outside, the warp storm howls louder. The crack in the air widens. Shapes move beyond it. Skulls, chains, eyes. The mirror laughs softly. "See," he says, "you are already tied to battle. Let me help you use it, or it will use you." Obi-Wan pushes back with his will. He does not reach for the Force. He reaches for his motto. Protect the weak, stop the cruel, never enjoy the killing. "If I become you," he says through gritted teeth, "I stop protecting the weak. I become the cruel. I kill to avoid my own pain." The mirror sneers. "You are already killing to ease your guilt," he says. "You just won't admit it." "No," Obi-Wan says. He takes a breath. He thinks of Luke again, of the look the boy gave him on the Falcon, hearing tales of the Jedi, of hope that there could be a better way. He thinks of Lyra, writing letters to families, of Hale, weighing hives, of Severian, standing under weight and still praying. They live in horror. They still try to be more than knives. "If I must choose between being too hard and too soft," he says, "then I choose to be soft again and again and carry the cost, because someone has to remember what we are trying to save." He straightens. The coal fights him. He grabs it with his mind, not to use, to cage. "You are not truth," he tells the mirror. "You are my fear, dressed in armor. I will not worship you." The mirror's face twists. For the first time, real hate flashes in his eyes. "So be it," he says. "When your mercy kills a sector, remember this moment." He raises his hand. The crack above the Geller engine flares. Warp light blasts in. The Geller field surges. Something else surges with it. A golden spear of light stabbing from below. It hits the crack. The mirror screams. He burns, not in red, but in white gold. The image of the inquisitorial seal on his shoulder melts first, then the edges of his form. He reaches out toward Obi-Wan as if to drag him in. Obi-Wan does not move. He lets the light take the image. The crack snaps shut. The humming steadies. The warp storm's roar drops to a lower growl. Severian gasps, straightening. He grips his Crozius. "Did you?" he starts. "No," Obi-Wan says, breathing hard. "That was not me." The chaplain looks around. He feels it too. A new pressure under the storm. Not hostile. Heavy. The ship's Vox network crackles. The astropath's voice comes through, thin but clear. "Message from the Astronomicon," she whispers. "From Terra. From him." The whole ship seems to hold its breath. "What does he say?" Severian demands. "He says..." The astropath swallows. He says, "Turn aside from this storm. Take the outer path. Bring the stranger to me. Reach the throne." The bridge crew scramble to change course. Engines flare. The warp storm claws at them as they slide away from its heart. Obi-Wan leans against the Geller Shrine's wall. The coal in his chest is still there, but a thin ring of something else surrounds it now. Cool. Gold. Severian touches his arm. "You stood," the chaplain says. "The warp showed you a path, and you refused." "He almost had me," Obi-Wan says. "If the Emperor had not pushed..." Severian shakes his head. "The throne answered because you held your line," he says. He does not waste his gaze on those already falling. He looks at the humming engine. "That sign settles the next question," he says. "Some on this ship doubted we should go all the way to Terra with you aboard. They feared bringing a marked psyker into the heart of the Imperium. Now the Emperor himself has spoken. We obey." Obi-Wan nods slowly. He hears again the words in his mind. "Bring the stranger to me. Reach the throne. Whatever waits there, he cannot turn away now." The outer path takes longer. The warp quiets, but the ship crawls around the edge of the storm like a man skirting a chasm. Days stretch. Obi-Wan spends more time in the training hall, rebuilding strength. He spends more time in the chapel, staring up at the statue. Severian prays aloud sometimes. Master of mankind, the chaplain says, you saw fit to speak to this stranger. Show us if he is a knife or a bomb, or both. Obi-Wan prays in his own way. He does not know if anyone is listening on any throne. He speaks anyway. If you truly wish to use me, he murmurs, then use me without turning me into that thing I saw. I have failed enough. I do not want to become one more monster in your stable. There is no answer, only the hum. Still, he feels not alone. At last, the librarian announces that they are close. We approach the Soul Gate, he says over Vox. Prepare for re-entry to real space. Obi-Wan stands once more at the observation slit. The warp outside boils, then peels away. Stars snap back. A sun appears ahead. Soul small but bright. Around it, like gnats around a candle, thousands of ships move. Warships, transports, station hulks, ring forts with guns the size of cities. Obi-Wan stares. Your home system, he whispers. You turned it into a fortress. Severian stands beside him, helmet on now. Terror is the heart, the chaplain says. If it falls, all falls. So we wrap it in steel and faith. The ascendant blade glides toward a colossal ring station that spans half an orbit. Its surface bristles with lance batteries and docking arms. Segmentum solar customs, Varro mutters, appearing behind them. Prepare for hours of checklists. They do not get hours. The moment the cruiser's codes ping the ring, a new set of signals returns. Fast, clear. Priority route cleared, the bridge Vox echoes. Order of the throne. Escort inbound. On the view screen, a squadron of sleek gold-tinted gunships peels away from the ring and streaks toward them. Their prows bear no chapter symbol, only the Aquila. The Legio Custodes, Severian breathes, the Emperor's own guard. Even Varro looks impressed. Usually they do not stir for less than a Black Crusade, he says. It seems you have their attention, Jedi. Obi-Wan swallows. The gold ships take position around the ascendant blade, like lions around a wounded beast. They guide it inward toward the blue marble of terror. As they approach, the planet's scars show. Great defense rings glitter in orbit. Orbital plates, shield generators, batteries. On the surface, continents bristle with hive cities fused into one another, all wrapped around a single, massive complex. The Imperial Palace. It is not a single building. It is a continent of walls, spires, guns, and cathedrals fused together. Light glints from gold domes and black towers. Obi-Wan feels its psychic weight even from orbit. It presses on his mind like a hand. The palace, Severian says softly, seat of the throne. The strike cruiser sinks into a traffic pattern. Then, escorted by the custode's craft, it breaks from the flow and glides toward a massive, open cradle on the palace's flank. Shields ripple, gun turrets track and then relax. The ship lands, clamps bite. The journey through the void ends. The next walk begins. They do not let many off. Most of the crew stay aboard, under orders. Only a small party descends into the palace proper. Varro, Obi-Wan, Severian, 2 other angels, and a pair of stormtroopers as token guard escort. Custodes meet them at the airlock. They are taller than even the Astartes. Their armor is gold, worked like art. Their helmets have tall crests. Each carries a guardian spear, a long shaft topped with a combined blade and gun. Their presence is like a wall of quiet force. Obi-Wan feels something new near them, a deadness, not like the Crucible's hateful null, a clean absence. These men are not psychers. They are something else. Blanks, realizes, or near enough. Human minds that give no echo in the Force at all. It is like standing near small, moving holes. The lead custodian speaks. Obi-Wan Kenobi, he says. His voice is calm, deep. Inquisitor Varro Kiran, Angels of Redemption, you are called to the throne. You will come. You will not speak out of turn. You will not touch any weapon without leave. Do you accept this? Varro bows his head slightly. We accept, he says. Obi-Wan nods. Yes, he says. Severian inclines his helmeted head. The custodian turns. Follow, he says. They walk. The palace corridors are vast. Walls of night-black stone shot through with gold veins. Floors polished to a mirror shine. Statues of heroes and saints line the halls, each 3 times life-size. Servitors and robed acolytes move aside as the custodes pass, heads bowed. Obi-Wan feels his connection to the Force dimmer here, not cut, but muffled. There are other presences too, small sharp blanks that move in groups. Sisters of silence, warrior women in plain, elegant armor, their faces uncovered, eyes hard. Around them, the psychic air goes flat. They nod to the custodes. They glance at Obi-Wan with open, cool curiosity. He feels his brand prickle whenever they pass. At last, the party reaches a set of towering doors. They are made of some dark metal, engraved with scenes of war and triumph. The Emperor stands at the center of each panel, leading armies, crushing demons, holding a burning galaxy. Custodes stand to either side. A choir sings somewhere beyond. The lead custodian turns. Here, words end, he says. Within, your thoughts are enough. He raises his spear and strikes the door 3 times. The sound echoes like thunder. The doors swing inward. The throne room is not what Obi-Wan expected. It is not a small chamber with a single chair. It is vast. A hall so long he cannot see the far wall. Pillars like mountain trunks rise to a ceiling lost in shadow. Banners hang between them, each embroidered with a different age of victory. At the far end, on a raised dais, sits the golden throne. It is a machine. Metal, cables, tubes, and ancient panels, all fused into a shape vaguely like a seat. Around it, great pylons rise, crackling with unseen energy. In its core sits a man, or what is left of one. His body is huge but withered, skin stretched over metal and bone. Golden armor wraps him, cracked and rebuilt 1,000 times. Wires pierce his skull. His eyes are sunken hollows. He does not move, but the air around him burns. Obi-Wan feels it at once, a presence, brighter than any he has felt. Not gentle, not soft, a storm held in place by endless will. He falls to one knee before he knows he is doing it. Varro kneels too, head bowed. Severian goes to both knees, Crozius across his chest. The stormtroopers press their faces to the floor. The custodies stand, heads inclined. Silence falls. Then a voice speaks. It does not come from the withered mouth. It comes from everywhere and nowhere at once. Rise, Obi-Wan Kenobi, it says. The sound is not loud. It is calm, but it presses on his bones. He stands. His legs feel weak. He looks up. For a moment, the dry, dead face on the throne seems to change. The eyes glow faintly, not bright, just enough. Obi-Wan feels his mind touched, not ripped, not invaded, examined. Memories flicker. Tatooine's suns, the temple's halls, Satine's smile, Anakin's fall, Mustapha's fire, Luke's face, Heliandria's wall, the crucible, Morchax's axes, the mirror in the Gela shrine, the coal in his chest, all pass in a breath. Then the touch settles. You are far from your origin, the voice says, from another pattern, another way of shaping the same sea. Yes, Obi-Wan says softly. My Lord. He does not know how to address this being. To call him Emperor feels too thin. To call him Master feels too familiar. The voice does not seem to mind. You opened a path between wounds, it says, between one galaxy's scars and another's. You walked through it when you could have turned away. Why? Obi-Wan thinks of the first scream he felt back in his cave. Because I heard pain, he says. Because I could help. Because no one else in my world even knew this place existed. Because you still believe, the voice says, in duty, in the value of one more life held safe, even for a moment. Yes, Obi-Wan says. The air shivers. The Emperor's presence presses deeper. You carry a mark of the blood god, the voice says. I feel it, a hook, a possible turn. Obi-Wan nods. I let that axe bite me, he says, more than once, to protect others. I tried to hold the cost, but it stuck. You also carry a small touch of my light, the voice says, from when you refused that path in the crucible and in the storm. You asked not to become another beast. You asked to be used without being broken. Obi-Wan swallows. Yes, he says. The Emperor's attention shifts just a little. Obi-Wan feels it like heat on his chest. The coal flares. Pain lances through him. He gasps. He feels the brand dragged into sight, not to his eyes, to his mind. It looks like a knot of red wire wrapped around a small, bright shard of gold. The shard is new. The wire is old, but not deep. It could still be pulled. The voice speaks. Understand this, it says. I cannot simply remove what you carry. Power leaves marks. Choices cut lines. If I tear the hook out, I tear pieces of you with it. You would survive, but not as you are. Obi-Wan breathes hard. I need to be myself, he says, or I am no use at all. Then I will not rip, the voice says. I will bind. Golden light flows around the knot. It wraps the red wire in a thin, tight coil, not hiding it, caging it. The pain sharpens, then eases. Obi-Wan groans. Sweat beads on his forehead. When it is done, the coal feels different, still hot, but muffled. The Emperor's presence pulls back a little. You now carry two brands, the voice says. One of blood, one of duty. Each time you act, you will feed one more than the other. There is no neutral. Obi-Wan nods slowly. I understand, he says. You do not, the voice says, but you will. It falls silent for a moment. Obi-Wan feels other minds around him. Varro, tight and alert. Severian, full of awe. Custodes, calm and ready. Billions across Terra, whispering prayers. The Emperor carries them all. You fear becoming like my Inquisition, the voice says. Like the mirror you saw, a sword that cuts too quickly. A judge that kills to avoid doubt. You also fear becoming too soft, as your old order was. So afraid of power that you let others use it unchecked. Yes, Obi-Wan whispers. Then you must learn a different word, the voice says. Not balance, not mercy, stewardship. Obi-Wan blinks. Stewardship, he repeats. War cannot be ended by one man, the voice says. Not here, not now. I tried long ago to build a peace that would last without constant slaughter. My sons broke it. My enemies broke it. Now this Imperium survives because knives like Varro and blades like Severian cut out the worst rot faster than it can eat the core. The air hums. I do not ask you to end war, the Emperor says. I ask you to keep the cost from emptying everything, to choose, in each fight, who must bleed so that something worth saving remains. Not hope without teeth, not hate without thought, a hard middle path that almost no one else can see anymore. Obi-Wan's throat is dry. That is, a heavy demand, he says. Yes, the voice says simply. You already love heavy things, it adds, almost wry. You pile guilt on yourself without help. This at least will make that weight useful. Obi-Wan lets out a huff of breath that might be a shaky laugh. Fair, he says. The Emperor's presence shifts again. Your power is not like our psychers, the voice says. It touches the warp from another angle, cleaner most of the time, but this galaxy is dirtier than yours. When you use great force here, you stir old gods, you risk tears. Obi-Wan nods. I felt that, he says. On Heliandria, in the Crucible. Then hear this limit, the voice says. From this day, if you call on the full flood of your power, if you move mountains, if you tear fleets, if you bend storms, the cage around your brand will strain. The hook will bite deeper. You may save many in that moment, but you will step closer to becoming the thing in the storm. Obi-Wan swallows. So you ask me to hold back, says. Even when I could end battles faster, I ask you to weigh each surge, the voice says, to choose where your line lies. Small acts, steady, will cost you less. Sudden huge ones will burn you. Use them only when there is no other path. The golden pressure lifts a little. You also opened a door between your galaxy and this one, the Emperor says. Its edges still flicker. If you tear it wide again from your side, you risk dragging my enemies into your home, or your shadow into mine. Until this mark is settled one way or another, you will not open such a wound lightly. Do you understand? Obi-Wan closes his eyes. He thinks of Tatooine, of Luke, of the others back there, who do not know this hell exists. Yes, he says softly. I will not risk bringing this back to them. Not until I know how to plug every hole. Good, the voice says. It softens, just a fraction. You have done well, stranger, it says. You have bled for my people without knowing their names. You have refused at least 2 clear paths to easy damnation. You have come when you could have hidden. Obi-Wan feels something like approval. It is thin, hard, but real. Now you must see what paths remain, the Emperor says. What roles I can allow you to take under my law. The air in the hall thickens. The light around the throne brightens. Obi-Wan feels his mind pulled inward again, not ripped, invited. Look, the voice says, and choose. The world around him fades. The throne, the custodes, the banners all dissolve into a grey mist. He stands alone in a wide, empty space. Before him, 3 roads appear, each made of light. Each carries images. On one, he sees Tatooine's sands and familiar stars. On another, the endless, crowded, burning sprawl of the Imperium's worlds. On the third, black void and fractured banners, inquisitorial seals, Astartes sigils, a walking line between factions. The Emperor's voice comes once more, steady and quiet. These are the shapes your life can take, it says. Return, free blade, sanctioned servant. Each has a price. Each carries different blood. Obi-Wan takes a breath. His chest aches. The coal between the golden threads is warm, but contained. He steps forward toward the vision. The choice waits. In the librarium later, the Angel's librarian tries to put what just happened into words for his records. Kenobi's warp signature now shows 2 clear poles, he says, speaking into a recorder. One tied to Khorne's resonance, one tied to the throne's. When he uses small-scale abilities, mind tricks, enhanced reflexes, short-range telekinesis, the throne brand hums louder, but the blood brand does not stir much. He taps a rune, watching lines move. When he contemplates large acts, planetary-scale pushes, fleet-level manipulations, the blood brand spikes. Even if he does not act, he continues. We must assume any major display of power will feed that hook more than the golden cage can counter. He glances toward terror below. Per the Emperor's own mandate, Kenobi is now under strict self-regulation, he says. He can act, but every action has a visible cost in his aura. The more he behaves like our psychers when they fall to cornete rage, relying on brute force, the closer he draws to that path. The more he works within limits, the more stable his pattern remains. He leans back. In simple words, he says, half to himself, "We have given a new kind of sword to a man who hates cutting too deep, and told him, 'You may swing hard, but every mighty stroke may crack the hilt in your own hands.'" The three roads of light hang in the grey air. Obi-Wan stands in front of them, feet bare on nothing. Each path glows a different hue. Each carries moving images, like windows into a life. The Emperor's voice is quiet now. "Look," it says, "see what each choice buys. See what it costs." Obi-Wan steps toward the first road. It is sand-colored, warm and bright. Scenes unfold. He sees Tatooine. Twin suns hang above a familiar desert. The Lars homestead lies half buried in dust, as it always did. A younger Luke runs along the ridge, chasing a toy T-16, shouting with joy. In the vision, Obi-Wan stands on a nearby dune. He looks older, more lined, but there is no scar of the crucible on him, no mark on his chest. His robe hangs simple. He watches Luke the way he did before. He feels the same quiet love, the same fear, but there is a haze in his mind. He tries to remember Hive Eidolon, Malkiel, Lyra, the Crucible. The images slip away like smoke. He knows something happened, somewhere, some war. He knows he chose something, but he cannot see the details. The vision shifts. Stormtroopers burn the homestead. Luke stands before him, eyes shining, as Obi-Wan hands him his father's lightsaber. He tells the boy about the Jedi, about the Clone Wars, about Anakin. His voice catches when he says the name. He does not remember why. He trains Luke on the Falcon. He feels the boy's raw hope, his hunger. He dies on the Death Star, struck down by Vader's blade. He becomes one with the Force. He whispers guidance from beyond. The galaxy moves toward its own end of war. Heliandria fades from his mind, a story he once almost knew. On another world, far away, Captain Lyra Voss signs an order to burn a whole underhive. There was no strange Jedi to argue for screening, no one to cut the first sorcerer's knot. The Butcher Prophet never dies in the Crucible pit. He lives longer. He finds other ways to feed his god. Millions scream. Obi-Wan watches both threads. He feels the pull of the first. Luke. The boy is hope. A chance to fix some of what he broke before. But the Emperor's voice cuts in. "This path means this," it says. "You keep your first duty. You pay with this galaxy. Your mark fades. Your memory of this war dims. You become again what you were, a ghost on a desert, guiding one future." Obi-Wan's throat tightens. The path is kind to him, too kind. He steps back. He looks at the second road. This one burns red. It is jagged, harsh. He sees himself in armor, not power armor, not guard flag, a mix. His Jedi robe is gone. He wears a long coat over a breastplate with a small aquila. His lightsaber hangs at one hip, a bolt pistol at the other. He moves from world to world, always alone. On one planet, he destroys a chaos cult before it can finish its first ritual, cutting down every member, even the ones who cry and beg. He does not seek proof. His senses tell him the pattern. He trusts them. On another, he crashes an inquisitorial purge, killing the Inquisitor and his whole retinue because he senses rot in their hearts. He then kills the local rebel cell too, because he senses revenge in theirs. He leaves a line of burning cities behind. Some were already doomed, some were not. He answers to no one. The Inquisition hunts him. Astartes hunt him. Chaos hunts him. People whisper his name as a curse and a prayer. The coal in his chest is no coal now. It is a star, red, hungry. He fights demons with frightening skill. He also slaughters men who might have been saved. At the end of that path, he dies on a broken world, laughing through blood as he cuts down a greater demon and a grey knight in the same stroke. Morchax waits for him in the warp. They become something ugly together. The Emperor's voice is flat. This path is easy, it says. You obey no law but your own fear. You destroy threats before they fully rise. You also destroy much that was not yet threat. You relieve yourself of doubt. You gain power. You lose everything else. Obi-Wan shudders. He steps back quickly. He does not need more of that picture. He faces the third road. This path is gold and blue. Its light is softer. It shows him standing on a landing pad above a hive he does not know. Varro stands beside him, older, more lined, inquisitorial seal brighter. Lyra is there too, in a new, sharper officer's coat with more medals. A small scar crosses her jaw. Her eyes are harder. A group of planetary leaders stand before them. Obi-Wan speaks. His voice is calm. He argues against a full orbital bombardment. The world has been touched by chaos. Some hives have fallen. Some have not. The Inquisition wants to burn the whole planet. He has proof that one continent is mostly clean. He pushes. He does not win every point. But the final line changes. Instead of burn all, it becomes burn these hives, blockade the rest, screen the survivors. Millions still die, millions more live. On another world, he stands at a council table. A chain of inquisitors, governors, adepta stand around him. He speaks for a new pattern, that before any purge, 3 questions must always be asked and answered in writing. Who will die? Who will live? And what exactly are we saving? Most inquisitors ignore this rule. Some do not. Those who listen cut more carefully. On another world, he stands in front of a group of Astartes recruits. He teaches them how to fight sorcerers without feeding them, how to move in a way that guards not just their bodies, but their minds. They write some of his drills into their codex. He sees himself on a sororitas ship, in the chapel, arguing with a canoness about a shrine world marked for culling. They choose a smaller cut. He sees himself on Heliandria again, years later. The hive has scars but still stands. Lyra is now a general. She shows him blocks that were burned, blocks that were saved. He reads names on a memorial wall. Some he knows, some he does not. He sees mistakes, worlds where he arrives too late. He sees victories, worlds where a smaller purge holds the line without breaking the spirit. He never gets to rest. He never goes home. The coal in his chest never goes out, but the golden threads around it stay tight. The Emperor's voice is steady. This path is the hardest, it says. You serve under law, under my mark. You gain authority to speak in my name in certain places. You also accept chains. You will see orders that disgust you. You will obey some. You will argue others. You will never be clean again, but you will keep more than you destroy. Obi-Wan watches his own face in that vision. Older, more tired, but not empty. There is still a small light in his eyes. Hope, stubborn and thin. He stands in the grey space. He looks from one road to the next. Return, free agent, sanctioned servant, an impossible choice. He hears Luke's laugh again. He feels Heliandria's wall shake. He thinks of the Emperor's warning. He cannot open the path lightly. He cannot come and go, not without tearing both galaxies open. He speaks at last. If I go home now, he says, I save one boy, maybe one galaxy. I also abandon this one to a war I can help shape. If I go alone, I become what I fear. If I serve here, I lose my first duty, but I gain a chance to make this slaughter less empty. He closes his eyes. He feels the two brands, red, gold. He feels Luke far away, like a memory in the Force. He feels terror huge below him. I want to go back, he whispers, more than anything. But I know this, the Force is not done with that boy. If I am not there, someone else will be. A smuggler, a princess, an old droid. The path can bend. He opens his eyes. He looks at the golden blue road. I will not be your free monster, he says. So I choose this, sanctioned, bound, but still myself. The grey space trembles. The roads flare and then vanish. Only the choice he named remains. The Emperor's voice returns. Very well, it says. You will serve in my sight. Light floods in. He is back in the throne room. His knees hit the floor. His hands slam against the deck. He gasps, lungs burning. The air smells of incense and ozone. The custodes stand as they were. Varro still kneels, head bowed. Severian is flat on his face now. Only a few heartbeats have passed here. In Obi-Wan's mind, it felt like hours. Golden light wraps around him. Not warm, not cold, strong. He feels it settle on his shoulders like an invisible cloak. The Emperor's voice fills the hall. Obi-Wan Kenobi, it says, by my will, you are bound to me. Not as son, not as servant without thought, as steward, as warden of the unseen gate. A symbol forms in the air before him. It is simple. Two shapes fused. The Jedi Order crest. A vertical line of light with wings. The Imperial Aquila, a double-headed eagle with spread wings. The two overlap. The eagle's wings wrap around the Jedi light without crushing it. The sword of light runs through the Aquila's heart like a spine. The symbol glows bright, then sinks. He feels it burn onto his chest, over the place where the brands lie. It hurts, then it cools. The Emperor continues. These are your bounds, the voice says. Hear them and live by them. Obi-Wan forces himself to listen. 1, the Emperor says. You will not open paths between your galaxy and this one without my direct leave or mortal level threat to all. You will treat such wounds as you treat bleeding men. Close them when you can. Keep them small when you cannot. 2, you will not unleash your full flood of power except under clear lines. When a world's fall is certain without it, when no smaller act will hold. Each such act will cut your soul. You accept this. You will not whine about the pain. A few custodes almost smile at that last line. 3, the Emperor says. When you stand in councils that speak of purges, you will always ask the 3 questions. Who dies? Who lives? What are we saving? You will write the answers. You will keep them. You will send copies to my Inquisition. They will remember what they do. Varro's head snaps up. He is surprised. The Emperor goes on. 4, the voice says. You are given authority to speak with my weight in certain matters. You may veto exterminatus, the death of a whole world, once per world in your sight. If you do, you must offer another plan. You must then act to make that plan real. If you fail, the blood is on your hands as much as on theirs. Obi-Wan's mouth goes dry. That is a terrifying gift and a heavy threat. 5, the Emperor says. You may show mercy to those touched but not yet taken by chaos. You may argue for screening, for cutting carefully. You may shelter the innocent caught in crossfire, but you will not hide those who knowingly serve the warp. You will not shelter covens. If you do, my custodes will kill you. The gold armor men do not move. They do not need to. Their presence says it already. 6, the voice says. You will walk with, not above, my tools. You will serve beside Inquisitors, Astartes, Sororitas, Guard. You will not set yourself as their judge in all things. You will argue. You will bleed with them. You will obey my law when your code and theirs clash, unless I speak again. Obi-Wan nods. He understands. He is not here to take over. He's here to pull on lines, not hold all of them. 7, the Emperor says. You will keep your motto. Speak it now. Obi-Wan swallows. Protect the weak, he says. Stop the cruel. Never enjoy the killing. The hall is very quiet. After a moment, the Emperor answers. Good, the voice says. Add this. Accept that some cruelty is needed to stop worse. Hate it. Do it when you must. Then do not forget it. Obi-Wan's shoulders shake. He whispers the new line. Accept that some cruelty is needed to stop worse, he says. Hate it. Do it when I must. Then do not forget it. He feels the golden threads tighten around the coal. He also feels how close that coal still sits to his heart. This is your mandate, the Emperor says. You are my warden of the unseen, gate. You watch for tears between worlds. You watch for new ways the warp touches souls. You guard without trying to rule. You cut without trying to erase every risk. You are not a hero. You are a steward. The golden pressure eases. The hall breathes. Varro lifts his head. His eyes are wide. The throne gave him veto power, he whispers, on exterminatus, on purges, and ordered us to write down our reasons. Severian rises to one knee. He looks at Obi-Wan's chest. The new symbol glows faintly under cloth. The Emperor has made you a strange thing, the chaplain says. Not a saint, not a primarch, a reminder, a walking question. Obi-Wan stands slowly. His legs shake less now. He feels the new mark's weight. It is not lighter than his old guilt. It just has shape. He bows his head to the throne. Understood, he says. The Emperor's voice is softer. You will still fail, it says. You will still misjudge. People will still die because of you. That does not free you from trying again. Remember that, Jedi. Obi-Wan breathes. I will, he says. The presence pulls back. The eyes in the withered face dim. The hall feels emptier. Only human air now. The leading custodian steps forward. His helm hides his face, but his voice is almost gentle. You have heard him, he says. His words stand. We will carve them into the seals of your file. From this moment, you are recorded as a sanctioned anomaly under direct throne mandate. Varro rises. He looks at Obi-Wan with a mix of annoyance and respect. Well, he says, that will make meetings interesting. Severian snorts. You will have to write more reports, he says. Varro grimaces. I hate this already, he mutters. He turns to Obi-Wan. By the throne's will, he says, I, Inquisitor Varro Kiran, accept you as a sanctioned asset. I will argue with you in council. I will shoot you if you fall. Until then, I will make use of your strange perspective. Obi-Wan almost smiles. That seems fair, he says. Severian stands fully now. He plants his Crozius on the floor. As chaplain of the Angels of Redemption, he says, I name you brother guest. You may train in our halls. You may argue with our codex. You may fight at our side. If you ever call on Khorne, I will take your head myself. Obi-Wan nods. Thank you, he says. The custodian gestures toward the doors. Go, he says. The throne has more to hold than you. War waits outside this hall. Obi-Wan looks one last time at the unmoving figure on the throne. Then I will go to it, he says. He turns and walks out. Up to now, he has fallen into a new galaxy, fought chaos on a hive wall and in a blood pit, faced a mirror of himself in the warp, and stood before the Emperor to take on a heavy, bound duty. Now he must carry that mandate into a war that never ends, with each act feeding either the brand of blood or the brand of duty in his soul. News travels slowly down from Terra. On Heliandria Prime, weeks later, a data slate arrives on Hale's desk. He reads the seal. Aquila and Jedi crest fused. His eyebrows rise. "Captain Voss," he calls. Lyra steps in, salutes. "Yes, my lord." He tosses her the slate. She catches it, scans the contents. Her eyes widen. "A. Warden of the Unseen Gate," she reads. "Obi-Wan Kenobi, sanctioned, direct throne mandate, authority to request screening before purge, authority to veto exterminatus once per world, Emperor's own words attached." She whistles. "That's new," she says. Hale nods. "I have seen many seals," he says. "Never that one." Lyra's mouth twists. "So he let himself be tied to them," she says. "To the whole rusty machine." "Seems so," Hale says. "In his way." She looks out the window. The hive still smokes in places. Underhive blocks lie sealed, some still under screening, some burned. "Good," she says quietly. "We need someone up there who remembers what a single life looks like." Hale nods. "Just hope he survives long enough to use that veto," he says. Lyra smiles, just a little. "If anyone can stand in front of a planet killer and make them think twice," she says, "it's the old fool who walked into a bloodstorm with a glow stick and a code." She hands the slate back. "Orders?" she asks. Hale taps the screen. "New protocols for purges," he says. 3 questions, written answers, on record. He looks at her. "Let's start obeying them now," he says, "before some Inquisitor comes to read our hearts." In the eye of terror, far from Terra, something else stirs. A warband of the Broken Claw limps through the warp. Their fleet is smaller now. Their main prophet is gone. Their crucible is broken. In a dark hall aboard a spiked cruiser, a new champion kneels before a throne of skulls. A shadow made of brass and rage looms over him. The blood on the floor boils. Words burn themselves into the champion's mind. False light, marked soul, throne's dog. The champion grins. His teeth are filed to points. He stands, axes in hand. "Obi-Wan Kenobi," he snarls. "I will find your skull. I will crack it at the foot of the throne you serve and drink what spills out." The blood god does not answer. He rarely does. But the drumbeat in the warp quickens, just for a moment. Boom, boom, boom. The hunt begins. On a craft world far in the void, an Eldar Farseer sits cross-legged, eyes closed. She walks the skeins of fate in her mind. She sees the usual horrors. Tyrannid swarms, Necron tombs waking, human wars. Then she sees something new. A strand of light from another pattern, woven roughly into the Imperium's tangle. It glows in 2 colors, gold and something older. She tilts her head. "A strange blade has been added to the Monkee's hand," she murmurs. "Dull enough to cut its own wielder, sharp enough to nick ours if we are careless." She smiles, very faintly. "Perhaps we will watch this Jedi thing," she says. "Perhaps we will nudge when it serves us." Beside her, a warlock frowns. "Play with human toys too much," he says. "And even we get burned." She nods. "Yes," she says. "But sometimes you must move small stones to shift a landslide." She looks back at the glowing thread. "For now, we watch," she says. A year later, on a different hive world, a young clerk sits in a crowded hab block. The air smells of promethium and sweat. The lumen on the wall flickers as the newsfeed runs. A Pict appears, grainy but clear enough. A robed man with a short beard, holding a straight bar of blue light, stands between a line of ragged workers and a squad of black-coated arbitrators. Behind him, Astartes in green armor hold back a mob. The announcer's voice is brisk. And in other news, a new figure seen on Gathis Primus during last month's witch riots has been confirmed as Obi-Wan Kenobi, the so-called Warden of the Unseen Gate, she says. Sources within the Administratum report that he intervened to halt a full Hab-level purge, insisting on targeted screening instead. Only 2 blocks were burned. Productivity has since risen by 12%. The clerk snorts. Only 2 blocks, he mutters. Lucky them. An older woman at the next table shakes her head. It would have been 10, she says. Or the whole level. My cousin on Gathis says they were already fueling the bombers when he stepped in. The clerk frowns. You believe that? He asks. A psyker with a glow stick, telling inquisitors what to do? The woman shrugs. Don't know, she says. But my cousin's still breathing. That's enough for me. The clerk looks back at the Pict. Obi-Wan's face is tired. His eyes are sad. But he stands firm, one hand raised, palm open, as if calming 2 storms at once. A faint, strange symbol glows on his chest for a second, when the Pict flickers. A winged sword wrapped in a small halo of eagle wings. The clerk feels something in his chest ease. I heard the priest call him a heresy once, he says. Said he confuses people about mercy. The older woman snorts. Priests call their own shadows heresy if they stand in the wrong place, she says. All I know is this. The Arbites shot my brother last year for asking why his food card was short. No one stood in front of him. If this warden wants to stand in front of someone, let him. The clerk nods slowly. He does not know theology. He knows the weight of someone standing in the way of a gun. He tucks the image in his mind. Later, when he says his evening prayer to the Emperor, a second picture sits beside the golden one, the throne, and the tired man with the blue blade. He does not say Obi-Wan's name. He does not dare. But he whispers something extra. Please let more of us live, he says. In a small, hidden data vault deep in the palace, a fresh line appears in the Lex Imperialis. It is plain, not underlined, easy to miss. Warden Mandate M41.9999. By direct decree of the throne, the entity designated Obi-Wan Kenobi is granted the title Warden of the Unseen Gate, with limited veto over planetary purges and exterminatus, and is charged to ask in all such matters, who dies, who lives, and what is being saved.